911, what's your emergency?
They're shooting people. Please help.
What does it mean to protect and serve?
Blood. All over the floor.
How far are you willing to go to protect others? Are you prepared to do the unthinkable in the name of justice?
Even when no one dies, I wonder, do we fix anything? We fix anything at all? Down on your knees!
Preserving the peace doesn't always mean doing the right thing.
We're not cowboys. We are not heroes.
Out there, hesitation can cost lives, and mercy can feel like a mistake. They don't care if you're ready or not, so be prepared for the worst. Ready or Not is one of the most fascinating horror games I have ever played, and it's one that I did not expect to hit as hard as it truly did for me. Most gameplay online that I'd seen from the game are the funny moments where people are just running around shooting the bad guys with their friends, or occasionally you get the long-form explained lore video which talks about all of the game's missions and story. This itself gave me a very different impression of the game itself. A somewhat gritty, realistic shooter that wasn't too serious, that didn't dive entirely into the subject matter that I thought the game was actually trying to outline. But with me finally buying the game after watching the funny Lip Man's video on the game, I found that the game had a lot more to say than a lot of people gave it credit for. Not only did I discover that this game was one of the best tactical FPSs I had ever played, but it was also one of the most interesting and thought-provoking horror games I have ever indulged in. Ready or Not, developed by indie developers Void Interactive over in Ireland, and within the game itself we join a SWAT unit within the beautiful city of Los Sueños, or LA. This is a fictional LA, because man, if you go outside, look at that, it's the Maze Bank building. But this city is very different from LA in real life. It is entirely crime-ridden. Oh, it's no different. LA is still a shithole and is filled with crime entirely and is filled with a very bad homeless population issue and everything. Damn, why do you people choose to live there? But upon launching the game, we will be thrown straight into the main hub for us, the LSPD headquarters, which, man, I really like this hub area. This place not only is filled with so many little details, itself tells a story from being able to see the city as you go outside and seeing the state of everything. We see that the cops themselves are not that popular in the city, with messaging saying how the cops are corrupt or overfunded, but it's how reinforced the police station actually is. It tells us that they need this level of protection from the city itself and the citizens because of how bad the situation has actually gotten. But also, the station itself opens up over time. As you go through the main campaign, more of it will open up to you and you'll be able to interact with more and more officers. These officers themselves all have their own stories and dialogue, and some of them are really interesting and add so much world building to what it should have just really been a very simple world that is just our world, but again. But I think that's the scary part of this game. It is very realistic to what life is actually like for many officers. But within the station as well, we can find this little tribute that I found really cool about a story about some officer using a M1 Garand to subdue some suspects, which just again itself fills the world with history and lore that isn't needed but is so greatly appreciated. But what are the things that we can mainly do in the police station? Well, mainly we can use either the training grounds to do a kill room to test your pre-aiming and teach you how to clear correctly and get you more familiar with the weapons that you have, and also a gun range to test out the many guns in the game. And with that, let's talk about the hardware. Now, immediately from the beginning, we get access to every weapon in the game, and there is a lot of different guns in this game, and equipment as well that we can employ within missions. Now, there are a lot of guns that all do different things, but some of them are very similar. There are like 6 different types of MP5s that have slight differences to them in how they handle and the attachments you can put on them, but most of the weapons are extremely unique, from SCARs to M4s to AKs to G3s to AUGs to P90s, MP7s, MP9s, UMPs, and a couple of different shotguns. All the weapons feel different in how they handle, but also how they react to the world. Certain weapons are way more powerful, meaning that higher body armors they will just rip through. But of course, with that higher power comes more recoil. So you might be tempted to go with a light weapon like the MP5, which is a classic straight shooting weapon. But the problem is the MP5 is chambered in 9mm, meaning it will struggle against body armor. But that maneuverability allows you to move in the rooms a lot faster and clear rooms way easier. This is something that I absolutely adore about Ready or Not because all the weapons are usable. They're all great weapons, and I don't like the idea that there is a best weapon in this game that a lot of people try to say. Yes, some weapons are very powerful and can one-shot enemies across rooms, but I don't think that makes them better. To me, I found the MP5 to be extremely reliable in just how straight it shot. It allowed me to be able to take out targets almost immediately because how easily it handled, whereas something like a SCAR was way heavier and felt almost cumbersome to use in tight encounters. But don't worry, if you don't want to kill people, there is also non-lethal and less lethal weapons that you can use, like the pepperball guns, tasers, and the beanbag shotgun, which if you do use the beanbag shotgun, it can kill. If you put a round in a guy's head with a beanbag shotgun, it will kill them because that thing shoots a big beanbag at them very hard. That's why it hurts them. Now, if you were to ask me, what is the best weapon in Ready or Not, in my opinion, what was the one that I found was the most reliable with the situations we are most often thrown into? The most common answer that people give online is the SA-58, or as I know it as the FAL. Chambered in 7.62 NATO, it hits way harder than most weapons in the game. It hits harder than all the M4s and other ARs that are chambered in 5.56 and below, but also the SMGs as well, which are often chambered in 45 ACP or 9mm. This is a great weapon, don't get me wrong, but the problem is I think it's a bit overkill. Yes, it will one-shot basically any enemy in the game, and it's a full auto weapon. You can spray this thing at someone and just completely rip them apart. But I think the SA-58 is a bit overkill, and I think it is too strong to be the best weapon in the game. Also, it is fucking awkward as hell to actually fight with this thing when you're in a shootout and spraying at people and trying to just get them to go down, because this thing kicks like nothing else. And the problem with it as well is it's almost impossible to take people alive with this weapon. If you tag them with this thing, it will kill them. So it often meant that this weapon was so overkill that it often felt more like a detriment. So you might think, okay, so you probably preferred something lighter, something like the MP5, the classic SWAT gun that was used in the Iranian embassy siege. It's a workhorse weapon, and I will be honest, I really did enjoy it. Slight problem with the MP5. If the enemy has body armor, this thing will tickle them. It does almost no damage, and in this game where half a second can be the result of you dying, that is not good enough for me. So it was often a weapon I really enjoyed when the enemies didn't have armor on, but as soon as it was armored enemies, this thing really struggled. So you might think, oh, you probably went with the MP7 or UMP45, something with a higher caliber that was a bit more stronger. No, not really these two. Personally, I thought the P90 was the best weapon out of the SMGs, with a much better bullet for dealing with body armor, and it just felt good with that big 50 round mag, meaning reloading was not something you had to think about very often. But to me, Ready or Not is defined by two key weapons. The beanbag shotgun, which is my most used weapon because, again, it's a beanbag shotgun allowing me to take everything in alive, and if you have good aim, you can shoot this thing across a room and beanbag someone with it. But if I actually wanted something that would just kill and delete enemies and just immediately destroy them as soon as they pulled their gun up at me and started to shoot at me, I went with what in my opinion is clearly the best weapon in this game. The Benelli M4, or the M1014, a semi-automatic 12-gauge shotgun that will rip the heads off an enemy that you shoot at. It is always one of my favorite weapons in any game, from Left 4 Dead to Payday 2 to Battlefield 6 recently. It's always deadly and precise, and Ready or Not is no different. It's a weapon that I feel just works and does exactly what I need to do. When I pull the trigger, I wanted to put an enemy down. And luckily, armored enemies as well, you can kind of use it as a beanbag shotgun against armored enemies. If enemies have high levels of body armor, this will just stun them and act as a beanbag shotgun because the 12 gauge won't penetrate the armor, making it almost a slightly stronger beanbag shotgun if the enemies have body armor on. But all the weapons in the game can be decked out with a bunch of attachments, from sights to muzzles like chokes and brakes and suppressors, to even barrel attachments like grips and flashlights and laser pointers, allowing you to really tinker with the weapons in this game to make them feel the exact way that you want them to. But Ready or Not isn't just about the firearms that you bring into the mission as well. It's also about equipment, from flashbangs to CS gas, wedges, mirror guns, shields, rams, breaching shotguns, and so so much more. There is so many pieces of equipment that can give you a tactical edge when approaching an objective. Even bullet types can play a role in how you approach a mission. Most weapons have multiple types of ammo types that they can be chambered in, allowing them to interact in different ways. The most common one you'll be using is their standard armor-piercing rounds, which will kind of just do what you need them to. Armor pierce things, shoot through armor, but some weapons allow you to take the bullets down a notch, use hollow point, which of course hollow point do more damage and are more deadly, but the amount of equipment and choices you get for your loadout is insane really. It is crazy amount of stuff we have access to and we actually get to play with almost immediately. Any other game would have made you unlock all these items throughout the game's campaign to show some form of progression, but Ready or Not wants you to feel like you're an actual SWAT unit, a part of a city. You are given the funding and being able to buy and equip stuff that you need. Yes, this does mean that you can kind of do silly stuff like take one mag of 5.56 for your M4 and then take 20 flashbangs and then just flashbang every room you enter, which to be honest is actually quite a good strategy, I will be completely honest. Or you can do what I did with my crew. I set up everyone with CS gas and gas masks and would just gas every room we entered, which made it almost impossible for enemies to kill us. Ready or Not benefits from this loadout system and giving you every item immediately because it allows you to approach missions however you want and however you see fit. You will develop a general way that you like to approach unknown rooms. Rooms that you don't really know what's going on. You can't get a good look with a mirror gun in it. For me, it's ramming the door open, throwing in a gas and a flashbang, and just running in there after things. But for you, it might be something different. It might be trying to find multiple entrances to a room and then going in together, or slowly taking your time, creaking that door open with the mirror gun so you can get better angles in. But this isn't all we get access to in the police station. Within the LSPD station, we have the entirety of the station at our disposal, from a locker room allowing us to modify our loadout. And man, this game's gear system is insane in how depth it is. So not only can you change like the equipment you take from flashbangs to gas grenades to the weapons themselves, you can also change what type of plates you put in your plate carrier. There's 3 types of them and they do 3 different things and have different weights and how they react. But you can also change the type of body armor you take, where it covers. Does it cover your back, your front, all over your body? Do you want to take a helmet? Do you want to take a gas mask or a ballistic mask or flashbang glasses? But also, do you want night vision goggles? What kind of night vision goggles do you want? But also, whatever you take affects what else you can take. For example, the type of body armor you take will completely affect the amount of equipment you can carry. Heavier armor will result in you being able to carry less equipment, meaning less flashbangs, less gas grenades, less ammo in general. So there has to be this balancing act that you have to do where you'll find that you'll be able to cut certain things out of your loadout and add something else in. For me, I found having 3 mags in your sidearm was too much. 2 was as much as I needed. 1 in the gun and then 1 extra if I needed it. For my primary, sometimes depending on the weapon, I could drop a mag and then take something else. Or with grenades, I would sometimes get rid of 1 grenade and put others in, or I would get rid of all my equipment and just take CS gas with a gas mask, and that would be my strategy for an entire mission. I love how the loadouts allow you to completely change up how you approach the game itself. But not only that, you have your entire squad's loadouts as well. The commander mode, which is seen as the campaign mode for Ready or Not, you get access to 4 AI squad mates and you can completely customize their loadout however you feel that you need to do so. And how you set these guys up will determine how well you can approach missions. I would heavily encourage you to take your time in how they are set up and make sure that you set up each squad, red and blue squad, as their own separate units. For me, I made sure I had 1 shield on each squad, meaning I could split the 2 squads up into separate entry points and breach the same room with 2 shields from 2 different angles, making it much better. I also made sure that all my guys had gas masks, so when they gassed the room out, they could actually breathe. But also, what weapons they carry can make a huge difference. I often noticed that if I gave these guys very powerful ARs, they would just wipe the floor with enemies, or if I gave them a Benelli M4, they would neutralize the threat so quickly they wouldn't even get the chance to surrender. So giving them something like pepperball guns will actually be a massive benefit to you because they themselves can stun and subdue enemies as well, because depending on what equipment they have will tell them what they should be doing and going for. If you only give them lethal equipment, they're not going to think of how to take the enemy down non-lethally. They're going to do it lethally because that's the only way they can see they can do it. So you want my suggestion? Equip your shieldy boys with big tanky armor and maybe give them a pistol or the peppable pistol, depending on what you believe need. Personally, I gave them both 5.7s because these were just simple pistols that worked well, and I gave their 2 backmen beanbag shotguns. I know a lot of people will say this is overkill and you don't need 2 beanbag shotguns because they will probably kill the guys they're shooting at, but I found having 1, the impact wasn't big enough for these beanbag shotguns to really make a difference, but having 2, when you've got 4 guys in a room, 2 beanbag shotguns going off will completely neutralize the threat almost immediately. But also I made sure that the guys that were supporting the shields were the ones that were carrying the flashbangs and the smoke grenades and everything, or having a ram so they could actually breach locked doors open for the shield boys. But this was my method of doing it. Your method might be completely different. You might give all your boys MP5s and flashbangs and just bang and clear rooms completely, going hard and fast with light weapons that can just overwhelm enemies quickly. Set it up how you want, but make sure that all of your guys fill a role. If some guy just has random shit on him that doesn't really help you, it's going to affect the rest of the squad because they're not going to have the equipment they need. But with this equipment and guns, we can also take them to the shooting range to test our weapons out. And the shooting range is really cool, in my opinion. Something that I think a lot of games really lack nowadays that is slowly starting to come back is shooting ranges. Guns often have such minute differences that it is almost impossible to see them in live gameplay. But in a shooting range, you can really test out weapons exactly how you want. One of my biggest problems with games is pistols. Pistols often just do not feel different enough to warrant picking and choosing over them. But having a shooting range like this, you can really hone in on what you want out of your pistol. And for me, it allowed me to really figure out what I valued in a handgun in this game. I wanted something that was quick, fast, and precise that I could quickly whip out and shoot if I needed it. This meant I valued something that had semi-decent stopping power but a decent sized mag. So things like the 5.7, the 1911, the Beretta, and the SIG are things that I found fairly useful and pretty strong. But then something like the 357 revolver or the 50 AE Deagle thing, I don't know what this gun is. I think it's the 1911 chambered in 50 AE, I could be wrong, were a bit too heavy and bulky and too strong. But then something like the Glock I found was too blocky and I couldn't be as precise with it just because of how square the thing fucking was, and also I just felt like it wasn't as powerful as I wanted it to be, even though they're all chambered in the same fucking thing, I know. But I found myself gravitating mainly to 45 ACP pistols like the 1911, but also it allowed me to really go in depth with all the SMGs and figure out which ones I liked and didn't like and what ARs I liked and didn't like. And I found out I didn't like many of the ARs in this game because I just found them too bulky and too heavy and they had too much recoil. So I found myself gravitating mainly to SMGs and shotguns for this game. But what if there's something you want to test about a weapon that can't be tested on the shooting range, like the movement speed, how the gun maneuvers around corners? Well, luckily there is also a kill room to test this very thing with. Not only can this test how you clear rooms, but also I think it allows you to really test how guns maneuver and how the barrel length will actually impact you in gameplay. Guns that have long barrel lengths will actually prevent you from aiming if something is too close to you. There are times where I had a guy with a knife run at me in this game, the true British pastime, I know. They would sprint at me with a knife, but I couldn't actually pull the gun up to shoot them because they were too close, like real life. If a guy was that close to you, you wouldn't be able to pull the gun up and aim at them because their body's in the way. You'd have to back up and shoot them. And this is something you can test in the kill room. If you're scared that a gun is going to be too long and too cumbersome, test it in the kill room. Take these tight angles how you would clear a room and see how the gun performs, how with the gun you can pull it up, how quickly you can lean around a corner and pull the gun up to aim at something. This is something so small, but it allows you to really hone in and figure out what you need your loadout to be. But even after all that, if you're, getting a bit thirsty, you can also go grab a coffee from the coffee machine. This game has one of the most in-detail coffee machines I have ever seen in a game, and I cannot believe this thing exists. It's amazing. I love it. It's such a small detail, but the fact that you can choose what kind of beverage you want from it is amazing. I love it. Now, that is a lot of stuff that you can be doing here, and you can spend a good hour or two just thinking around with the shooting range and the kill room and also this room with a weird guy that is just there for some reason that you can just kill if you want to. But the main thing that you'll be doing in Ready or Not is the missions, and this will probably be first through the main single player mode, Commander mode. Now throughout these missions you might think that they're all disconnected and they're all just these little different missions that a SWAT team would go in and deal with. But as you move through the game, you will start to very quickly realize that these missions are way more connected than you might first thought. And that's because these levels aren't unlocked in chronological order, they are unlocked in difficulty order, with the first mission being the easiest and the last mission being the quote hardest, with each mission adding more complexity and more enemy types to the game that you'll be engaging with. But not only that, each mission will reveal more of the hidden puzzle that Ready or Not is hiding from us. By using these briefings and dates, we can piece together a somewhat decent timeline and story of Ready or Not. So where do we begin with our story? Well, we begin with...
Listen up. At around 2300, we received multiple 911 calls from the 4U gas station at 5th and Van Drake and Southside. We believe this to be a stick-up robbery with multiple armed suspects. At this current time, we don't know the condition of 4U manager Mudassir Varma or Charla Layton, with both calling in during the robbery along with multiple other civilians in the premises, including Charla's daughter, Crystal Layton. First responders began locking down on the scene at 2340, containing the area for D Platoon's arrival. An officer on scene reported the sound of gunshots at 2345 within the main building. We can identify all three suspects on the scene: Andre Williams, Zion Pretlow, and Jaden Fletcher. All have their own run-ins with the law for drug-related offenses or violent crimes. Be advised, some or all may be under the influence of methamphetamine and incredibly erratic. This potentially showing their true motives to feed a lethal addiction, even with the stick-up being high risk. We can assume their move was calculated, with DeBanco stopping by before the robbery for regular pickup of cash stored on the premises. DeBanco's employees are known to be at risk during their shifts, with many criminal acts committed against them, such as assault and attempted robberies. Along with the front entrance into the store, there's a second method of entry into the diner side area on the northern side. If both locations aren't viable options, there are two alternate entry points on both sides of the building. One may require a key card used by employees. You should be able to find it in a Knox box on scene. Suspects may have broken away from the main building into the side garage on the eastern side. Exercise caution when moving around the exterior. It is unlikely the suspects are wearing armor. They are armed and have demonstrated their intent to cause harm. We do know at least one of the suspects is carrying a 9mm semi-automatic pistol, as described by a witness. Remember to only use lethal force on what you deem as an imminent threat to you or your element, as well as civilians present at the scene. Plan and coordinate your actions accordingly. And get to work.
From this briefing, we can learn quite a bit about what is going on. Three suspects, Andre Williams, Zion Pretlow, and Jaden Fletcher, have done a typical stick-up, with all three men having some sort of previous criminal record of either drug-related crimes or general violent crimes. And the game itself gives these in detailed descriptions of the suspects, explaining their history, where they grew up, and what their characters are in general like. But not only that, it gives detailed explanations of the crimes that they have committed. We can see what kind of people they are. Jaden here being a man born in a low-income area, with crime, drugs, and gang-related activity being spread all throughout his life. With him getting addicted to drugs, he was placed on probation and in a drug program to help him overcome his addiction, because he was a young man when he was convicted of this crime. But clearly the city of Los Sueños isn't the kind of place that helps those when they need it most, with him now being involved with a stick-up. So how did we even get here in the first place? How did the SWAT learn about this? Well, like every mission, we get a phone call that calls it in.
911, what's your emergency? Hello, my name is Charlotte Layton. I'm at a gas station and need help right now. Ma'am, are you at the 4U gas station on 5th and Van Drake Southside? Yes! Please help. I got separated from my daughter, Crystal. They're shooting people. Okay, I need you to listen to me carefully, okay? Follow my instructions. You need to find a safe place anywhere you can hide, and I need you to stay on the line with me, okay? Officers are already on the way. Okay. Please don't hang up. Oh, God. I'm here, ma'am. I need you to stay hidden and quiet for me until officers get there. Oh, fuck, I think they're coming. 911, what's your emergency?
Hello! I'm being robbed!
Okay, try to remain calm for me, sir. Where's the robbery taking place?
The 4U gas station on 5th and Van Drake, Southside. No, Daddy. They started shooting.
Officers are on the way, sir. I need you to get somewhere safe, okay? And if you're able to, please tell me how many people you saw inside.
I'm in the back room. I'm not sure how many. I think...
Sir? Hello, sir?
No.
Are you there?
Hello.
Sir?
No.
It's clear that Mudassir is heavily injured and currently being attacked and potentially killed by the robbers. I mean, that final sound sounded like a killing shot. But we have 3 civilians as well as 3 suspects as well, and we need to ensure that we can rescue all 3 civilians to ensure we get the full picture of what happened, and also taking in the suspects will help as well. But one of these civilians is a child, and I think that a child is involved in the very first crime, I think perfectly sets the tone of what Ready or Not is going for. A very realistic, very scary picture of what life is like. Children are innocents. They are the picture of innocence in stories, media, and in real life. People protect their kids from these things, but this city is always exposing them to the very thing that people want to protect them from. But entering our first mission, it brings us to the 4U gas station, or petrol garage as I would call it, and immediately one of Ready or Not's biggest strengths will be presented to you: its atmosphere. From its sound design and art style with its lighting, it really does create the feeling of being in a city that feels overbearing, like anywhere could be a dangerous place. And almost immediately, we can find a dead person on the floor, showing that the situation has escalated significantly. So we can command our boys to take the initiative and move in fast, with them moving in and clearing the first room and controlling not only the civilians, but also confronting the perps themselves. What I did here is not the only way to approach the mission. You can scout the outside looking for more entrances, or you can go in hard and fast. The difference is the longer you take, you might get spotted by the perps themselves. Once the perps spot you, they might take up more defensive positioning and be more ready for a gunfight. If you take them while they're off guard, it makes it a lot easier to arrest them and get them to surrender. Because again, having 5 SWAT officers right in front of you is a lot scarier than seeing one outside of a window and then taking a pop shot at them. But again, if you let the perps spot you and you're in the building, they might start to take more drastic actions to try keep control of the situation. Occasionally, perps will take a civilian hostage, and if you get too close to them, they will kill them. When they take a hostage, it makes the situation 10 times harder because it means you can't just beanbag them in the chest, and if you take the shot, you might hit the civilian by accident. It makes the situation so much more tense and can mean that the entire situation that you're trying to control can spiral out of control immediately, and you can just lose control of everything and can lead to you basically failing the mission in the way if you start killing everything. So to me, the best way to ensure that the perps don't do this very thing is to make sure that your approach is quick, clean, and efficient. It is better to think of a plan and then go for it immediately and not back off. Because if you back off, it will allow them to regroup and potentially take hostages, making it even worse. Again, hesitation can kill, and that is something I think Ready or Not wants to demonstrate to you, that you need to be direct and you need to be completely confident in your plan. You cannot hesitate. If you hesitate, things will go wrong. But more interestingly, after you've arrested the 3 perps, occasionally the mission might spawn a 4th or maybe even a 5th perp, telling us that our information was wrong. And this is something that real life cops have to face all the time. When people call in something that's going on, they're not going to get all the information from them. Their information is not going to be perfect. So the first mission is teaching you that the information you get from your briefings isn't perfect. You should expect even worse situations. And here, we should not have only expected 3 people. We should have expected anywhere north of 10 just to be safe. And I think that's what the game wants to teach you, that you need to be prepared for worse. You can't just take in the bare minimum equipment to deal with it. There was only 3 guys, so if I only took 3 flashbangs, that's all I basically need. But if there was more than that, then I'd be running into problems. So make sure you're always prepared for more than you need, because occasionally you might even run out of the stuff that you prepared for even more people. But in the diner section of the gas station, we can find that a veteran seemed to try and make a stand and confront these robbers, but unfortunately, it didn't end end too well for him, with his gun jamming and him being shot and killed alongside his service dog, which, damn, that ain't good. But the veteran here seemed to be protesting something about a bill being cut, something for veterans. So potentially the city of Los Sueños is cutting some sort of bill or government grant to veterans that is giving them some sort of benefit, be it maybe military disability payments or maybe their pensions. We don't know. The guy's dead. But this is something that the game is clearly setting up as a big plot point for the game's story. Luckily though, we can find the little girl Crystal unharmed in a storage cupboard. But the manager of the store didn't get out quite so lucky, with his head being completely blown off and someone, probably his wife, trying to reach him by constantly calling his phone. With 2 civilians killed before our arrival, the game is telling us that we will not be able to save everyone. We have to make the best of the worst situation. That is our job. We cannot fix the problem. We just have to mitigate what is going on, which is what real-life cops and SWAT have to deal with. They have to mitigate as much as possible, not save everything, because you can't. But with us completely clearing the area, we complete our very first mission. And honestly, this is a great first mission for Ready or Not. The mission itself isn't too complicated. It's simple, but you can approach it however you want, and it teaches you how you should be playing this game, how you should be thinking, and what you should expect. It sets the stage perfectly of what kind of world we are entering. People are desperate in this world. They are willing to commit murder for money, for what? Drugs, rent, gambler money. We don't know what is making people so desperate, but it's clear, just like our world, people are desperate and are blaming the police and the government for what has happened. So now we question, what has the government been doing to try prevent this crime? How have they approached reducing the crime rate and helping people? Well, instead of the more kinder approach that is better for the people and the city itself, the city of Los Sueños has employed the give as much money to the police as possible and as much as they need to deal with the situation. And I mean, we can sit on the gun range as long as we want, wasting thousands of bullets, which tells us that the government has given us quite a bit of money to deal with this problem. Hell, we have access to almost every gun we could ever want. It's very clear Los Sueños is a city with a major crime problem, the kind of place that a child shouldn't be living in, but they are forced to. And the police are now having to enforce kind of just an iron boot strategy, just trying to keep the criminals locked away and pinned down before they can really do anything. But after our mission ending, depending on how well you did or how much of a meal you made out of it, will affect the mental health of your squad themselves, which if you did a good job and you kept casualties to a minimum and saved everyone, you and your team took minimal mental health damage. You will be good to go and fit for service for the very next mission. But if you fucked the mission up with one of your squad members dying and you blew 4 civilians' heads off, you'll leave your boys in a bit of a state, with them needing some psychiatric help, with you having to send them to the doctor, or sometimes they will just get up and leave and they will quit the police force if you did that poor of a job. It really does display how stressful this job can be for people. Shit goes wrong and it will affect people in really bad ways. So we need to make sure that we are taking our time and making sure that we don't let these situations get into these just massive gunfights that are just not good for people's mental health. We need to maintain stress levels and make sure our boys are taken care of, making sure they're not too overworked and too overwhelmed with what's going on. It's a really cool feature in practice, but in execution, I will be honest, it is really lackluster. This completely discourages you from using lethal methods in the game entirely. I found that if I was to take a Benelli M4, Supernova, or a Scar for example, any gun that would kill in one shot, I would find that my guys would get stressed out very, very quickly, because often when you have lethal weapons, you can't stun them. You will just kill them immediately when they start shooting at you. Yes, you should shoot them if they start shooting at you. That's what the rules of engagement are, but it means that your officers and your squad mates will get stressed out way faster and will more often than not quit. A certain level is very gun heavy. There is a lot of gunfights and it is just a lot of shooting. We'll get onto that in a minute, but I did this mission a few times. Once completely non-lethal with beanbag rounds, gas grenades, everything. But the second time, I decided I wanted to see what happened if I just went in all guns blazing. I gave all my boys ARs and SMGs, gave myself a Benelli M4, and pretty much killed most of the suspects, because if they shot, we would shoot back. That's how it worked. And after completing this mission, one of my officers, who was in green health, just quit, just left the police force because of the amount of people that we killed. And I find this means that these lethal methods are very heavily discouraged. Yes, they should be. This game should not be just a shooting game where you run in and you shoot everything inside, because I will be honest, you can do that, and it is really fucking easy to do that. But the more difficult nature of this game comes from trying to take everyone in alive. That is what you should be going for. But the problem is that I have is that this system for stress and officers leaving, it feels very simple. It's if you kill, bad. That's not good. If you kill people, they're going to leave. But if you save everyone, that's good. It's a simple system that is a cool idea. I just think it needs way more work put into it. But let us move on to our next assignment, and one of the most difficult, Neon 2.
911, this call is being recorded. What is your emergency? Hello? This is 911. What is your emergency?
Help us!
Ma'am, is everything all right? Can you tell me your name?
Oh, God. They're shooting everybody! Run! Run! Over here! Over here!
Ma'am? Are you there? Ma'am?
Hi! Shit! Oh, my God. Yes! Help us! You need to help us! They're shooting us all!
Where are you, ma'am?
Neon! You know, the nightclub. Oh, shit. They're coming this way. Stop! Stay away!
911, this call's being recorded. What's your emergency?
Hi! You need to send cops to the Neon nightclub.
Did you say Neon?
Yeah, the dance club. I don't know what's happening, but there's a bunch of guys with guns.
Did you say men with guns?
Yes, but not just normal guns. I mean, these guys had rifles or machine guns or something like that. Oh my God! Oh shit!
Ma'am, are you still there?
They shot everybody! They just shot all of them as they were lining up to get in! Oh my God! They're all dead!
Ma'am, where are you? Are you safe?
I don't know. We're across the street inside of a coffee shop. We're hiding, but they... Wait... They've all just gone inside the club. Are they shooting everybody in there?
Ma'am, stay where you are. The LSPD is en route.
I'm not going anywhere. Oh my God, there is so much blood. There are people in the streets. They're walking around. Oh, shut up. We need to help them.
I need you and anybody who's with you to stay where you are and remain out of sight.
Those people need help. Oh my God, please hurry.
Emergency services are on their way, ma'am. Hang tight.
They need to hurry.
This is a really interesting mission to talk about, being the 14th mission that you unlock in the game, and it's honestly probably one of the hardest in the game itself. But that's the rundown. A terrorist group called the Hand have committed a mass shooting at the Neon nightclub in response to US airstrikes targeting the Hand's shelters in northern Yemen. And the most messed up part of this attack is it is entirely being live streamed to the world itself.
Okay, this is going to be quick and dirty. We've got a suspected terrorist incident unfolding down at the Neon Club. Calls are flooding in of an active shooting inside the club. Calls have confirmed the gunmen shot through the crowds on their way in. A Watch 3 car from Midtown Division was driving past and confirmed the building looks to be secured down, with large vehicles blocking the exit points, while the entrance seems to be barricaded from the inside. Counterterrorism has confirmed the Hand has already claimed responsibility for the attack. We've also had it confirmed by the cyber team that several shooters are live streaming the attack. Feeds are being cut, but there are channels on the web that operate beyond regular control. We've got LSPD and paramedics en route, and all local hospitals have been placed on alert to receive victims. There's some big-name acts performing tonight, and we all know that Neon isn't adverse to stretching its capacity limit beyond regulation. Don't kid yourselves, this is going to be a bloodbath, so I want you all in there, shutting these assholes down.
What do we know about the situation inside?
Not much. We've got conflicting numbers, but we know at least 4 gunmen are armed with automatic weapons. Early studies of the live stream footage also have at least one wearing what looks to be an explosive vest. They won't hesitate to kill civilians, so we need to stop them before they can do more damage. We can't start saving people until these guys are neutralized. This isn't going to be pretty. So get with your elements and get ready to move.
Now, what is immediately apparent about this mission compared to the last one is while the last one was a tad extreme, with, a child being exposed to 3 men or 5 men being very violent and killing people, we get a glimpse into something very few people will ever be witness to: a mass shooting and the aftermath of a mass shooting itself. Entering the main entrance of the nightclub, the game doesn't pull any punches. It doesn't need to speak a single word. We can see just the pure amount of bloodshed that has been spilt in this attack. And seeing this sight, it makes you really question what you are doing. It makes you ask the question that Ready or Not is really pushing on you. Stop the killing. These attackers have killed 60 plus defenseless clubgoers, and you might think, if I need to stop these killings, shouldn't I be more aggressive? Should I just kill these attackers and make sure that this never happens again? Should I shoot first and ask questions later? This is something that I love Ready or Not does. Most of the bad people we are fighting in these missions are not good people. They're gang members that are cartel members, drug traffickers, human traffickers, terrorists. They're the worst of the worst in society. They are not good people. They do bad things for money. And this is something Ready or Not puts right in front of you and wants you to challenge. It wants to know how far you are willing to go for justice. How far will you push the line for justice? But what does it mean to bring someone to justice? Justice and what punishment should someone face for a crime is always a hotly debated topic. Is there a right answer for what is justice? To me personally, I believe that death is always the wrong answer. And I hate to say this, but my belief around what justice is and what it stands for was taught to me by my favorite TV show I've ever watched, from my second favorite scene in the entire series, Daredevil Season 2, Episode 3.
No, only I do the one thing that you can't. You hit them and they get back up. I hit them and they stay down. It's permanent. I make sure that they don't make it out on the street again. I take pride in that.
Let me ask you this.
What's that?
What about hope?
Oh, fuck.
Come on, Frank.
About Santa Claus? You want to talk about Santa Claus?
I live in the real world, too, and I've seen it.
What have you seen?
Redemption, Frank. It's real. And it's possible. The people you murdered deserve another chance.
What, to kill again, rape again? Is that what
No,
you
Frank,
want?
to try again, Frank. To try.
This scene to me does the same thing that Ready or Not does. It asks the question of what justice is. Well, what it should be is allow people who did a bad thing to be able to try again, to pay for what they did and potentially make the best of their lives that they can. Try repay for what they did, to try again. This is for most lesser crimes, and it makes sense. Allowing people who stole, who committed tax evasion, to pay for their crimes, move on and grow from what they did. But what about greater crimes? What about mass murder, human trafficking, child-related crimes? What about these sort of crimes? Should these be treated differently? Should we live in an eye for an eye society? Should a child rapist be executed immediately by the state? Well, personally, I don't believe so, because to me that isn't justice, that is vengeance. I would prefer for these people to be forced to live the rest of their days in the worst possible conditions ever. But I'm not the one making these calls, and I'm sure many of you would completely disagree, stating that people like child rapists should just be executed and thrown to the sharks. But that's the question Ready or Not is answering, and it never really does give us an answer, unless you think about it. Ready or Not does seemingly have an answer for us. It will want you to find that less lethal methods are preferred. You need to take these people in and let them be judged by the justice system to go through the proper methods, not us become a punisher for those that we deem as bad people. The score you receive from taking in perps alive compared to killing them is significantly higher. This simple thing will make you want to do this, and to get an S rating, to do the mission perfect, to do the best possible run of a mission, you need to take everyone in alive. The game is telling us that we need to uphold what justice stands for. We aren't judge, jury, or executioner. We are a cop that needs to bring them in so they can face those 3 things. Our job is not to enact our own feelings of vengeance, justice, and whatever else. We are not to punish them the way that we deem necessary. We need to bring them in so someone else who is disconnected can figure out what punishment they truly do deserve. Now, the attack on the club has been helmed by a man called, God damn, is that right? Have I wrote that right? That looks wrong. Kadama? I think that says Kadama. I don't know. Now, this mission very much shadows a real-life case, the Pulse nightclub shooting, in which a man man named Omar Mateen went to a gay nightclub in Orlando, Florida, and shot 107 people, killing 49 of them and injuring 58 of them, with him saying he did it for ISIS as a form of retaliation for an airstrike that killed some IS members. Which, yeah, this game is dark, but this mission chronologically introduces us to the terrorist faction, the Hand. No, not the Marvel Ninja guys, but a terrorist group originating from Yemen. Now this level is really good, not the whole mass shooting part of it, but just the way it plays out. It is one of the highlight parts of this game. It's not the best in my eyes in terms of the level of what it shows you, but it's up there. It really does emphasize and show you what Ready or Not is going for. It's making us walk through the worst shit imaginable and trying to stop those who caused it from doing even worse things. It's about us trying to save others from the fate we have to move through. But something that will become very apparent within this mission is that the terrorists are very different to the thugs that we have faced so far. The thugs doing this stick up in the first mission give up way faster than the terrorists. And this is purposeful. The terrorists are more threatening and are more willing to go out fighting. They want to make a message. They want to kill. So it makes sense that the terrorists are actually one of the harder enemies to deal with because they are so willing and so eager to get in a fight with you. You really have to get them almost with their pants down, flashbang them, beanbag shot them in the chest to the floor to get them to give up. Unlike the thugs who are just trying to get some money, who aren't willing to die for a couple $100. These guys are willing to die, and that will become very apparent because you'll often feel like the best way to beat this mission is to shoot them and kill them. Now the club itself is very clearly inspired by the Red Circle nightclub from John Wick, so it is really tempting to do the John Wick thing and just grab a Benelli M4, grab a 1911 and just blast Terry's faces off, which is fun, don't get me wrong. It is fun to play this game like a John Wick game and just blast Terry's out the way, but it does sort of make the game feel completely different. Now of course this level itself wasn't released without criticism. As pay, this is depicting a real-world event within the video game. A question Big Lip creator Wendigoon also brought up. Should this level be in a video game? Should a game be allowed to bring this level of detail and almost immersiveness to this sort of event, which saw so many people lose their lives and so many people lose loved ones in? Now there is two kind of answers to this. No, we should not be allowing people to engage with this, and it should not be allowed to be glorified this event. I don't think this game is glorifying this event. I think it's more bringing to attention the absolute filth and disgust of what can happen in our world. These events are real things, and they should be presented as such, and I think Ready or Not does it in a good way. It would be a different story if this was like a Modern Warfare 2 No Russian situation where we were the ones doing the shooting in the club, but we're not. We're the officers responding to it. So I think it does a really good job, and it honestly handles it with some pretty good tact, despite, you know, the mountains of bodies scattered all over the place. My answer will always be yes. If you've seen my Black Souls videos, you know it's yes. Ready or Not is clearly trying to show the horrors we as people can face in our lives. It's trying to show that even just one random night, just like the people that went to the Pulse nightclub who just wanted to have a fun night out, they had to experience, and many of them lost their lives in one of the worst things people can ever experience. From bomb threats to kidnapping, human trafficking, school shootings, cults taking everything from people and convincing them it's for good, I think it should be allowed. Just like the comments I made again in my Black Souls video, I think media should always be allowed to explore any sort of themes and things that it wants to. Ready or Not wants to dive into the worst things that a SWAT unit will ever have to face. They have to see the aftermath of what has already happened, knowing that they will never be able to save these people. And I think that is what makes this level so impactful. It brings to attention just how disturbing this is and how scary it actually is, and also what the cops who responded to it had to go through. I don't even want to imagine what it's like to actually respond to a situation that is even somewhat similar to this. And this is kind of the same thing that Wendigoon said in his video. He said that media should always be allowed to explore these topics, but he also said that he started to get frustrated about messing the level up when he tried to S-rank the level. Honestly, skill issue, I will completely say that. But honestly, yeah, the way the game is designed, it really does frustrate you, and I'm going to bring it up now. If you make a mistake in a level, let's say you accidentally shoot a perp, you have to shoot them or they'll kill you. That means you will not be able to S-rank the level. So what if you want to reset the level? Most games, you would just go into the menu, press restart, and it would bring you straight back to the beginning. Simple. Ready or Not does not want to do that. The Commander mode, it wants you to have to go through the entire mission and then restart it, because if you just quit out and go back in, it will act as though you completely failed the mission and you died and everyone died and killed everyone, and your cops, your team, will face a very severe mental health damage. And I think this is really badly done. And this is what I mean by this mode is kind of half-baked. The Commander mode's mental health system just doesn't work properly, and it needs to be changed way more. I understand they don't want people to just reload the mission and just restart after they make a mistake, because it would really gamify these events and it wouldn't allow for a more dynamic thing where you have to respond to shit going wrong. But I think the problem is Ready or Not, things often go really wrong really fast, and it will result in you not even being able to even think about S ranking the mission. And when a lot of the collectibles in this game are locked behind the S rank, you need to allow people to restart the mission quickly. An easy way to do this, I think, is you should allow people to, once beating the entire campaign in Ready or Not, allow us to then just reset the missions immediately. I don't really like how this game is structured, especially after you've beaten all the missions at least once, because it still feels like you have to replay every mission again in the same way if you want to S rank them all. To put it into perspective, I did try to S rank every mission, but some missions I'll be honest, I could not be bothered to S rank. I would always take too much damage and die, or I would accidentally kill someone by throwing a flashbang in their face or putting a beanbag between their eyes. There was always these little things that would basically prevent me from S ranking it, and it made it a whole thing where I had to complete the entire mission or just run in and get myself killed to restart the mission. I think this mode definitely needs some more work, and I can definitely see how this frustrates some people, but that's only if you go for the S rank. If you just want to play through each mission once, beat them all, it's very easy to do so. But as soon as you start going for them S ranks, it will start to frustrate the ever-living hell out of you. But anyway, arresting or killing every perp and saving all the hostages, we can exit that bloodbath, and we of course enter an even worse situation.
911, this call's being recorded. What is your emergency?
Help us. Oh God, they're going to kill us.
Ma'am, what's happening, ma'am? Can you tell me where you are?
They've got guns. They've shot 3 people. They shot them dead.
Ma'am, I'm gonna need you to take a deep breath for me, okay? Can you tell me where you are?
I'm at the Coastal Grove Medical Center. Please help.
And you said somebody has been shot?
Yes, people have been shot. They are still shooting. I can hear them.
Are you saying that there are shooters in the medical center?
Yes, they're shooting people. Send the police, please. God, they're shooting people here. I hate this fucking city.
Okay, ma'am, are you in a safe place?
I'm hiding under a desk, but they're not here. They went up to the next floor. I think, I really don't know. Just send someone, please.
I understand, ma'am. I know it's hard. Try to stay calm. I need to ask you just a few more questions.
Okay.
Do you know how many shooters there are?
No, it happened so fast. It came from everywhere.
Okay, that's fine. Did you get a look at them? Did you see what they're wearing?
I don't know. It happened so fast. I think some were dressed as doctors. I saw one man in those like green doctor's overalls. He had a gun, but I can't think.
You're doing great, ma'am. The police are en route, okay? Are you alone, or are there others with you?
I'm alone here, but I can see others.
Okay, is there a safe space you could get? A lockable room, anywhere?
I don't know. I don't think so. I'm hiding. They can't see me.
Ma'am, please remain where you are. The police are en route. Stay safe.
3 weeks after Neon Tomb, remnants of the Hand Terror group went to the Coastal Grove Medical Center in order to rescue the lone surviving leader of their group, whom is currently under police supervision in the hospital as he is receiving treatment. And of course, this has led to the most extreme type of threat being called in. For this mission, not only an active shooter is in place, but also a bomb threat, and many of the terrorists have taken up disguises masking themselves as doctors and nurses in this mission. And this mission is my favorite mission. The hospital itself is split into 2 distinct halves, with each half being connected with a sky bridge. Each side is obviously different sections of the hospital, with one side rather eerily being the children's ward. Now don't worry, none of the children died, because one of your boys will comment that the children got out before the Terrys could come in and blow them up. But with bombs set up, we need to go in and defuse them, all while making sure that we arrest all the Terrys and keep all the civilians safe. But of course, the civvies are actually also Terrys in disguise, occasionally. And this is another thing that Radio Nut does really well. When you're trying to arrest a suspect, of course, you will need to shout at them what feels like 50 times, and every time I do it, I just think of that one video where the guy is screaming for the guy to get down and he starts breaking it down. Occasionally, a civilian might also be there. Now, what's scary about this is if you don't intimidate them and get them on the floor, they might just get up and leave and run off, and if it's actually an enemy, they might find a gun and come back to shoot you. But it doesn't mean you could ignore the first guy you were trying to get on the floor, because if you do, he might just grab his gun again or pull his gun up and start shooting you. It makes it this thing where it's way more tense than it has to be, and it feels like you can lose control really quickly, especially when every person you see could potentially be a threat. And this one feature of the civilians sometimes being terrorists in disguise makes this mission so engaging and so tense at all times. Because the entire time you will be double checking every place you've been, ensuring that you've arrested every single hostage, as if one of them is a terrorist, they might just pull out a pistol and shoot you in the back, killing you. But honestly, it's one of the best missions. It's so fun. I love this mission. Eventually, we will secure the leader of the hand again, and defusing all the bombs and bringing order to chaos. If you were to S rank any mission, you will receive some evidence from the mission. And getting an S in this mission, we get some evidence that states that Kodama ordered the attack on critical infrastructure around the city after his demise, including hospitals, explaining why they moved on the hospital itself, because Kodama was arrested or potentially killed if you killed him in the previous mission, and explains why the terrorists are now just attacking things like hospitals, and could potentially mean they'll keep attacking more, because it is now assumed that the Hand still have 20 operatives left on American soil after the events of the hospital. So the Hand are not wiped out quite just yet. But after the hospital, we now head to a very different location, Cherryessa Farm, for the Carriers of the Vine mission.
911, this call is being recorded. What is your emergency?
This is Officer Mariana Garcia. I've come under heavy fire at the Cherryessa family vineyards.
Ma'am, did you say Officer Garcia?
Yes, Officer Garcia. There's no radio reception out here. We got an officer down and I'm pinned down on all sides. I need immediate assistance.
Officer Garcia, can you please confirm your location?
Yes, I'm at the Cherryessa family vineyards. Sergeant Bettis is dead and I need help. Please, send assistance now.
Okay, Officer Garcia, have you radioed for assistance?
I tried, but the reception out here sucks. Nothing but static coming through. I don't think anyone heard me.
Okay, I've put your call through to dispatch. Units are en route. Stay safe, Officer Garcia. 911, this call is being recorded. What is your emergency?
We do not want this. Our hand has been forced by the action of a society that wants to keep us weak and subservient.
I'm sorry, ma'am, but this is an emergency line. I'm going to have to ask you to hang up.
They must learn to pay for their crimes.
Ma'am, I'm going to have to...
You bow down to them. You offer yourself like a cheap whore. You could be saved, but only when you realize the power they hold over you is nothing but smoke and mirrors.
Ma'am, where are you calling from?
Good. Yes, send them all to the slaughter. We are one, and we are tired of being treated like pets and incubators for the next generation of filth.
Can I take your name, ma'am?
My name? My name is of no consequence, because we are one. They stole our bodies, our minds, and our spirits, but they could not break us. We are weak no more.
Ma'am.
We will not stop, and we will not be stopped.
Well, it seems a cult have attacked some officers, and they seem to have some sort of higher-than-thou beliefs, believing that they are above the law and that men are truly evil. What else is new? So we head out to quell the cult as they are performing acts of vigilantism on people who are doing wrong against women. But most interestingly here within this mission, some photos that we can find have individuals depicted within them who have been missing for years, and some massive board with cases talking about human trafficking and much worse cases on it. It's clear this cult here was involved with something much deeper, and they mention to us constantly that we have no clue what we are getting ourselves involved with, telling us that there is a much bigger conspiracy afoot in Los Sueños. But Elaine Raskin, the funny lady on the phone earlier, seems to have had some sort of role in some form of psychological warfare operation prior to this mission. This mission is entirely separate and disconnected from the previous set of missions in setting up a new, very different story, and this is something that Ready or Not does. You have these multiple little stories that are all seemingly disconnected, but there's these small links that just joins them together, which shows us that there is a much bigger picture in this game. Now, the next mission is called Lethal Obsession.
All right, boys, listen up. We all heard about the shooting down at the McCade station. We got 3 officers fighting for their lives, and 3 have already lost theirs. But we have something else, too. We got the name and probable location of the son of a bitch who did this. We've also got the pleasure of being the ones who get to get him.
No, shit. Let's get him.
Settle down. What we know about the events earlier today is that Gerard Scott set up an ambush by lighting a car on fire near the McCade station. He lay in wait, and when the police arrived, he opened fire on them with a rifle. Scott then fled the scene in an RV. A member of the public who was nearby when the shooting started got the license plate, which we've traced to a compound up on Sullivan Slope. Scott's details are coming through your tablets. We don't know much about this guy. He used to work for the USIA in an office-based role. He has no family, no friends, and apparently no known acquaintances. He wasn't even known to us until today. We got nothing to work with, no motive, no history of law enforcement. All we know is that this guy likes to keep to himself. He's already shown he's not afraid to shoot at cops, so I doubt he's going to welcome us with open arms. Be careful up there. I do not want to be responsible for the chaplain showing up at anyone else's wife's door today. I understand that emotions are going to be high, but we do not know what we are walking into. I want us to be swift and sensible. He's shown that he has serious firepower, and we need to be ready for anything. Something triggered him, and that makes him a very dangerous individual. Now gear up and report back to your element leaders in the garage in 5 minutes.
Well, that ain't good. So Gerard Scott, a former USIA analyst, the CIA, waited out the front of the East McCade Police Department with a Mini 14, dumping mags into a car, attacking someone. But with this attack, we are sent in after him, and this is one of the tightest and smallest missions, with the entire level taking place within just his cabin. And it is a very claustrophobic and tense mission, with our target occasionally deciding he wants to run your shit. Scattered about the map are these small gaps that our target will be able to slip through, but us with all our gear on, we can't. So it almost turns what should be a hunter versus the hunted on its head, with the target now hunting us. But with us eventually arresting everyone, we can return back to the station and move on to Twisted Nerve.
I was asked to do a drop at this house down in 213. I don't remember the address. I dropped off the product and took the cash. I was supposed to bring it back to the main house. That's where they run the logistics side of things. But I needed the cash. I pocketed it and stashed it in this place I found. I was planning on taking Reba and Archie and getting out of town. The fresh start. Get away from the locos and the Johns knocking on our door all day and night. She could be a mama and I don't know. They came looking for me quicker than I thought. When the money didn't come in, Julio sent them to find me. I hid in this apartment. Everyone knows about it. All the users hide up there when they need a place to crash. It was empty. I guess they maybe cleared it out before I arrived. They came in and grabbed me. I didn't see who, but I can take a good guess. Julio uses the same few guys to do his heavy hitting. When I woke up, I was there, in the attic. That's where they do their work. I was tied to a table. Julio was there, but so was this other guy, Frank. That's all he goes by. Nobody ever sees him, but we all know what he does. He's a surgeon, and a butcher in one. They wanted to know where the money was, but I couldn't tell them. I needed it. I have to get out of this city. It eats you alive. And now, with Archie, he deserves better than a junkie and a whore for parents. I've been there. I don't want that for him.
I understand, Mr. Haynes, but can you try to stay focused? This house, where was it?
Right. Sorry. The house. This is a different one. It's the lab. Well, the lab is underground in his hidden garage. They're cooking all the time down there. Then they open for business at night. Direct visits come late at night. You know, the bigger clients. You know what I'm saying? I was in the attic. It's where she used to live. Now it's where they take the people they need information from. I don't know what happened or why they left. Maybe I was dead. Maybe I was resurrected for a second chance. Fuck if I know. But I was alive and alone. The rest is a blur. I can't remember anything after I fell through the attic. I remember seeing her up there. But it couldn't have been. She's been quiet for too long. Maybe I was seeing things. But the next thing I knew, I was in the hospital. Ain't never been happier to see the cops in all my life.
You're doing great, Reese. These houses, where are they? Are they connected?
I can't remember the address, but I could show you. Never been good with names. They're connected to the business. One is the lab and storefront, and the other is where Julio and his boys operate things. The lab is at the back. It's all done up, ready to be fumigated. You can't miss it. Hiding in plain sight, you know?
That's great. This is helpful, Reese. Can you think of anything else?
No, it hurts. I'm tired. Can I go to sleep now?
This time we aren't responding to a call, but we have obtained some information from a source. We've obtained some information from a Reese Haynes with him seemingly doing some sort of dealings with a group who had a drug lab set up, and he has given us that location itself. So we head over to 213 Park Homes for the mission Twisted Nerves. In this, we are tasked of shutting down a building involved with the creation and distribution of methamphetamine, with the mission being split into two main sections. First is the house itself, which you do all the typical sweeping and clearing, but within the building we make a rather worrying discovery. A incapacitated child on a bed. Now the child is debated whether it's been drugged, knocked out, if it's being used for something. I don't think it is. The child, who seemingly, just looking at the room, is taken care of quite well. It's clear that her parents are one of the drug cooks, dealers, whatever. But in a different variation of the mission in the multiplayer mode, this child can spawn on a completely different bed with a needle next to her, which paints a completely different story, but in the commander mode, she always spawns in her bedroom. Now it's clear that just looking at the room, the child is very well taken care of when you compare it to the rest of the house. This house, for a lack of a better word, is an absolute shithole. And to me, it is a visual metaphor of how parents will give everything and do everything they possibly can to keep their child's life clean. They will let their entire life turn to absolute shit to ensure that their child gets the very best that they deserve, which is shown with the house itself. Everything else in the house, completely shit. It's all ripped apart, it's dilapidated, but the child's bedroom is clean, it's well kept, and it's decorated fully. Even the child itself gets a full-on bed, with all the other rooms which have beds in them often just being a mattress on the floor. To me, it just shows that these parents are willing to do whatever they can for their child, which kind of paints a very sad picture in a way. The parents did care for their child, but the city itself has almost forced them into a life that they shouldn't be living. They are forced into an uncomfortable truth, a truth where they are forced to turn to selling and creating drugs just to make ends meet, to give their daughter the life that she truly does deserve, because kids deserve to have the best and the best upbringing and the happiest days of their life. They don't deserve to be surrounded by what this child is currently in. And with us coming in, we are taking the parents who have done everything for this child away from her. a parent who was up to the task of raising the kid because they were so willing to go so far for them. It makes you question of whether we are doing the right thing. Is the presence here of the police really the answer for these people? Yes, drugs are bad, and we should always prevent people from even being able to obtain them, because once drugs start getting in the conversation, more scary things start coming in. Gangs, violence, and of course, addiction. But is the way of preventing this and sorting this issue out, is the answer really from the boot of us? Is the iron boot coming through their door really what they need? Shouldn't the government help these people out in a different way? This is a world where people are getting desperate and people are turning to a life of crime just to survive and be able to raise their kids. And we saw that in the first level, and again, it's reflecting our real world. We currently live in a world, many of us, in the UK and I'm sure in the US, where living a life that many of us want is just not financially achievable. I don't think I will ever really be able to comfortably have children in my entire life unless I either A, get very lucky and somehow land a very financially good job, which are in very short supply of in this country, or B, I win the lottery, which will never happen. So C, crime. Crime is often seen as a, let's be honest, an easy way to make money. It's probably easier to sell drugs than to work minimum wage for the rest of your life and want to die because you don't feel appreciated. But that's the problem. Why is working what is considered the normal good life so detrimental to many? Why is it a life where people cannot afford to buy a house, to even sometimes pay for heating and food and take their kids to school? It's not a good outlook, and it obviously makes people scared of what the future holds. I will be completely honest, I have no desire to do a lot of things in life just because of how expensive they are. I am quite frugal with my money. I like to keep it in a nice, safe place and let it grow. But the idea of having something like a girlfriend at the moment, or getting married, having kids, that seems like a very big bill to me. That doesn't seem very appealing to me. Yes, I would love all these things. I would love it to happen one day, and I would love to be able to live that life. But man, that price tag, I do not have the money. But it reflects our world now. I see a future where what is happening in this game, where just good people who just want to support their kids, their parents, each other, themselves, are forced into a life of crime because it's the only way out. There is no way to get it with how the job market is at the moment, to just how poorly paid everyone is. I fully see a future where people will turn to crime, where selling drugs and doing other illicit activities will be more common than people realize, and it will get to a point where even the police won't be able to control it because it will just be going on constantly. But securing the child themselves, we can move along from the main house into the fumigated house, and one of the labs are located here, and eventually we can start to head underground to try find the second lab. By the way, this entire level is just references to Breaking Bad, with even one of the meth heads in the mission being called Jesse. But the gang that is creating and selling the meth are the Los Locos, the Mexican cartel group of Radionauts world. And clearing them out, we can move along to Stolen Valor. This is another DLC mission, which is fairly disconnected, but we have rookie cop Michael Rodriguez having been declared missing after engaging in a foot pursuit in 213 Park apartments. So now we're going to go raid the apartment buildings where the suspected kidnapping took place. But in our search for our missing rookie cop, we find he has been left in quite a state. But earlier from the phone call, it seems that someone or some group was in charge of the building, which explains the really bad state it is in. And this is a real life thing that a lot of people face. Here in the UK, there are a lot of apartment buildings that are owned by these mega corporations, groups of people. Sometimes they're bought by rich millionaires, billionaires, and they don't maintain the buildings well. And it is a very common sight where people's toilets don't work. They have black mold all in their houses because they're not maintained properly. And they are forced to live in these absolutely terrible conditions, which is what we see here. I'm sure probably some of you out there live in apartment buildings where the stairwells look like this, where they don't look nice. They are very, for lack of a better word, they look like you'd get stabbed here. And this is a common sight because unfortunately maintaining and paying the upkeep is just too much. And again, they're struggling financially as well, probably. So we get sites where people are living in conditions that just look terrible. But this group that was upset of us being here because they don't want the cops here, who could this group be? We don't know yet, but let's hope nothing too bad happens. But after that little detour, we return to the main missions with Ides of March.
911, this call is being recorded. What is your emergency?
We need the police. Someone just killed the senator.
I'm sorry, sir. Can you repeat that?
We need the police. I'm at Memorial Park. Someone just shot Senator Fremont.
Okay, sir, thank you. Can I take your name?
Carlos.
Thanks, Carlos. You said someone has been shot. Was there a dispute or...
Oh, no, you're not listening. Someone shot Senator Fremont as he was giving a speech. It wasn't anybody up close. It must have been a sniper or something. I don't know. All right? I was listening to his speech when there was a gunshot and he hit the deck. It's mayhem down here.
Okay, Carlos. I'm going to need to ask you to stay calm. The police ran down. You say the shooter was not in the park?
No. Yes. Oh, God. I don't know. Maybe. But they weren't in the crowd. He was shot from a ways away, you know?
I understand, Carlos. Thank you. So, to confirm, there was no active shooter in the park?
No. This was a targeted attack. They wanted the senator. Oh, this fucking city, man. Oh, I hate it here.
Thank you, Carlos. As I said, the police are inbound. Please stay out of the way and let the emergency services work. Thank you for calling, and please stay safe.
Okay. Thanks. God, what a day.
So a group of veterans called the Left Behind have started to take action against the government and try to make the change that they believe is necessary. Now, if you remember in the very first mission, there was a veteran who was going on about some bill cutting, something about veterans not receiving the money they deserve. But this group is the Left Behind. They are veterans that feel like they are being left behind by the government. They are being cut out of the world and not being paid what they're due. So this group now has attempted to kill a politician who is responsible for this budget cut, and most of the enemies in this level are veterans with missing limbs. Now, of course, political assassinations, very hot topic in today's society, with recently quite a lot of it having occurred. Now, this level, you might think that I'm now going to be forced into the whole left-right division narrative. No, I fucking hate this shit, honestly. I hate when people go left, right, lib, Democrat. I don't give a fucking rat's ass. Politicians, at the end of the day, want division. If you can divide people, you can distract them. That's it. There is no division. There is a difference between me and you. Yes, we might earn different amounts of money, but it's not about me and them or us versus them. At the end of the day, those politicians you look up to don't give a flying flippity fuck about you. All of them want to line their pockets. All of them. From America to the UK, France, Germany, all of them. They just want to line their pockets. That's it. They aren't going to save you. They aren't going to make your life better, because trust me, they're fucking not. If they were going to, they would be doing it. They don't want to. They want to try to make a good government so they can go down in history and get a good pay benefit from it. That's it. They just do it for money. Side tangent, Nigel Farage ain't going to save us in the UK. If you're a UK citizen like me, he is not your friend. He is not going to save us. He's going to make our lives 10 times worse. That's it. Now, what do I think of political violence? I think it's bad. Of course it's very bad. I think people should always be allowed to talk about what they want. So, do I think we should kill them? No. Killing political activists or speakers or presidents, prime ministers, whatever, is always bad. Because politics is a talking thing. You're meant to talk things out. You're meant to respect each other. And unfortunately, I think because of how aggressive people have gotten in recent years, how angry they've gotten, it has resulted in politics becoming more about a war than what politics should be. Politics should be every side of the argument coming together and debating what is right, what is wrong, what should we do, how do we fix this, what should we do, what should we do, and coming to an agreement in the middle. Unfortunately, it's not like that at the end of the day. Most politics now is just a screaming match and false narratives, lies, and gaslighting the general population into believing that something is a problem when it really isn't. This is also the first mission, though, we will enter where the enemies, the Left Behind, will have body armor and higher caliber equipment, being equipped mainly with the use of rifles, not SMGs and handguns, meaning that if you're using something like an MP5 or a lower caliber rifle, it might struggle to actually penetrate and take down and neutralize enemies because of that body armor. But also, due to their higher caliber weaponry and their military training, they're actually more deadly. They will kill you a lot faster, as hey, bigger bullet and better accuracy means you die quicker. But securing the area and ensuring that the residents who live there as well are secured, we move along to the Sins of the Father mission, in which the Left Behind have now occupied the 14th floor of the Clermont Hotel, threatening to execute the senator's family on video, as the Secret Service, who were instructed to protect his family after the failed assassination on him, somehow got infiltrated and overthrown. So we now need to head into the Clermont Hotel, neutralize the threat before the execution can happen, and of course, get rid of the videos. Now, of course, because their assassination attempt on the senator failed, they went straight for his family. And to me, this mission is outlining a very real and very scary thing that we face in today's society: extreme political violence. Extreme political violence is something that we have seen more and more recently, with obvious events coming to mind: the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, and of course the assassination of Charlie Kirk, plus there's been a couple more, I think. And it highlights a very scary topic and thing in our world now, that people are so willing to do what they believe they need to do in order to make their lives better. But let me tell you something, let me tell you something. Chopping off the head of a snake will kill that snake. But the fun thing about politics is there's 14 more snakes that will appear out of nowhere and try to be the new main snake. It doesn't matter. Every snake in politics doesn't like you. So why shouldn't we kill them? Well, because they will use this as a narrative to only further push their agenda and cause more division between groups in society, which will make our lives worse, because again, this will mean politics will get less constructive and more about proving the other side wrong, so on and so forth. And it will just be a whole thing about seeing how much money they can make, or making themselves more famous. That's all politics is at the end of the day. Anyway, after all that, we can move along to the Los Pollos Hermanos restaurant or hunger strike mission, with two gangs, the Locos del Pacificos and the La Familia Cardenas, who are trading some substance, but it went bad and a shootout occurred at the Mexican restaurant, so we now need to head in and get control of the situation. Pretty basic mission, not too much going on. So we move along to Rust Belt.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What do you got for me?
I've got something big, but I'm gonna need immunity or whatever, because I'm like risking my life telling you this.
It's same deal as always. But you know I'm fair. If it's good, we'll talk when you're finished.
Alright, well, this is good. I've been watching this place. A ranch.
A ranch?
Yeah, man, a ranch. But hear me out. It's a front. The real deal is what goes on inside and what happens in the backyard. They're running everything through this place, man. People, drugs, cash, you name it, it's passing through.
A coyote den?
This isn't just a coyote den. I wouldn't risk myself for one of them. This is the coyote den. It's the primary shuttle point for the Los Locos into the city and back down into Mexico.
I'm listening.
Good, because that's not it. They are moving shit tonight. Big things, man. I've seen him preparing stuff for days now. The streets are buzzing with it. I don't know what, I really don't. But if you want to shut down a tunnel and get your hands on some big Los Locos names, I'd get myself a team and head out into the desert.
You got an address?
Yeah, it's way out in the lowlands on the Costa Vina border. A ranch called Rancho del Sueños.
Cute name.
What?
Yeah, nothing. Just carry on.
Right. So it's this ranch over by the border, derelict sort of place. At least it was the last time I was there, but that's just a front. They process everything in the house, but the tunnels, they start in the back. There's this river underground, and they have a whole functional dock set up that they use to move things quickly. But you gotta be careful. It's a fucking labyrinth down there.
This is good. Keep talking.
What do you mean good? This is a gold mine for you. What more do you want from me, man?
I want real details. Something that's actually going to help us.
Details? I'm giving them to you on a plate.
What are we going to find there? Where should we look? Have you got a route through the tunnels? Are there any traps?
I don't know any of that. I was there ages ago and got taken in and taken out. All I remember is there's lots of branching tunnels, but only one way through. They won't have it trapped on account of the traffic moving through. They've got weapons down there, so as soon as they know you're coming, things will change.
This is good. We'll take a look.
It's more than good. I give you my word. It's the real deal. So, how about my immunity?
We'll see. If this checks out like you say, I don't think that will be a problem. Now, you better get going. This has been a long call. Dump the phone, and I'll get a new one to you. I'll be in touch.
So we have been called out to raid a coyote stash house on the Mexican border, which belongs to the Los Locos, who have been using this building to smuggle people out to Tijuana. I actually don't know how to pronounce that. I know it was a fucking payday thing, but Jesus, I can't remember how to pronounce it, to escape the authorities. And this mission is really different, with you going from an old abandoned house into a long underground tunnel, which is tight and cramped and claustrophobic, making this mission really unique. Now, the mission itself shows the whole operation of the Los Locos, with them using the tunnel to smuggle not only people out, but also things into the US, from guns, money, drugs, and of course, people. Or as you Americans fucking call them, aliens. What the fuck is that? But in the mission, we can find them having confiscated passports, something very common for these groups to do, because one of the easiest ways to control someone is to have their passport. A passport is one of the most powerful pieces of documentation a person can have, not only containing all their information, but also it's what allows them to travel from place to place. So trap them in a country? Tough shit, they can't go anywhere. And now they are stuck there until you, the person with their passport, allows them out. But this is often tied to another terrible human crime: human trafficking. Traffickers often keep their passports so they can keep control of the people they smuggle, often demanding ever-increasing amounts of money from them, with the promise of their passport back. Once they've given them all their money, they will then force them into being their slaves, either by making them do the work that they need or forcing them to work with an associate of theirs illegally, often working for less than the minimum wage of the country that they are currently in. This is very common because passports are one of the most commonly used IDs for getting a job, and if you go into a country, it's probably the only form of ID that you're going to have. Your driving license in Afghanistan is not going to work in the UK or the US, so a passport is one of the better ways to try get some form of employment. But even then, you need to have a right to work, all that shit, so without your passport, that's basically impossible to get. So often they smuggle people in, take their passports, and then basically force them into working for them. But anyway, after this mission, we move on to, in my eyes, the most impactful mission in Ready or Not, and that is Elephant.
911, this call is being recorded. What is your emergency? What is your emergency?
I need help.
Can you tell me what's wrong?
I'm hiding. There's blood. So much blood.
Okay, I'm going to need you to stay calm. Do you know where you are?
No, they don't.
No, I mean, where are you?
Hiding in a cupboard. They came in and just started shooting.
Okay, that's good. Where's the cupboard?
In a classroom.
You're doing great. So you're at school. Which school?
What college? Please, come help me. I don't want to die.
I need you to stay calm. The police are on their way, okay? They are on their way. Stay where you are.
I don't want to. Please don't let me die.
Stay calm. Remain where you are. Is the shooter nearby?
I don't know. Don't make me look.
Ma'am, I'm not asking you to do anything of the sort. Stay where you are.
Oh, God.
Ma'am?
They're coming back.
Stay calm. I'm right here with you.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. No, please, no!
The 11th mission that you unlock in your playthrough is called Elephant, and it has you and your squad respond to a mass shooting at a community college, a school shooting. Now this mission really hit me. Up to this point, none of the missions in Ready or Not had really gotten to me, especially in the order you play them, because they never presented their information in an upfront way. You can skip all of the briefings and phone calls and everything are entirely optional in how you approach these games. So for me, I actually at first didn't realize these briefings existed until I actually looked through the menus a bit more before I actually went into missions. But that means most players will most likely go in blind to these missions and not really understand all the backstory about what's happening. You don't know why you're there, what's going on, who these people are, the whole story and everything. And I think this is one of the things that Ready or Not does really badly. For example, the mission with the political assassination, you will have no idea what you're actually responding to, and you have no idea what's going on and why you're there unless you read the briefings. It is not really mentioned unless you can figure it out, obviously, from context clues in the missions later on. But I think it's way more important to understand what's going on before you go into the mission, because these briefings obviously give you way more information about who the suspects are, what civilians are going to be on site, what is potentially there on site, traps-wise. But the school shooting is immediately clear what's going on as soon as you load in. There's a certain feeling to this mission that's very hard to describe. It's a similar horror that Neon Tomb gives, which is a mission later in the game when you actually play it. It's clear that something has happened that is really bad, but this one, it is happening. Currently, the school is being shot up, and you're now directly involved with preventing deaths, and this mission feels way more urgent than any of the others. At one point, I remember vividly, when you take one of the students into custody, occasionally they will start having what sounds like what is almost a panic attack. Honestly, the voice actors for this game do not get nearly enough praise because they are one of the highlights of this game. You can hear someone verbally losing it and just completely breaking down, trying to hold together and it sent a chill down my spine hearing this random NPC that doesn't matter, who is just a thing in a game, having basically a panic attack, and I'm just sitting there listening to it as I'm trying to listen out for footsteps beyond a door. It's chilling and it's frightening how realistic it sounds. I don't think any other game has ever made me feel that way, that same level of dread and just fear that I felt in that moment, because this person had seen the worst. They had seen their classmates get shot, and I'm sitting here listening to it and I have to respond to it. And it's a very different kind of horror that I've never really felt ever. And I think that's what makes Ready or Not such a great horror game, is that level of discomfort it pushes on you. Horror is often confused, I've said multiple times, with only being scary. Horror is many different things, but primarily what the emotion that is associated with horror is discomfort. Does it make you feel uncomfortable? Does it make you feel scared? Does it make you feel sick? These things all encompass horror, and Ready or Not embodies a horror that is often overlooked. The feeling of uncomfortableness, that fear that you feel when you're entering something like this. And I think this is honestly Ready or Not's crown jewel of its mission list. All things considered though, it's not that hard of a mission. You are dealing with shooters and bombs that they've set up, but the long corridors and tight rooms make flashing and clearing very effective, and a calm head will get you through much quicker than you realize, and cleanly. Almost relating how fast school shootings actually happen. They are minutes in a day. They're not hours long a lot of the time. Often it is a 10-minute ordeal where someone goes off on one and often ends with one of them killing themselves. Also, the people we're going against, they're not soldiers, they're not mercenaries, they are kids, they are college kids. And there is loads of reasons they did what they did. From depression with the suspects talking about how it's finally over when you finally take them into custody, to poverty with one of the suspects, it being mentioned in Twisted Nerve as doing a drug drop-off, implying money was a serious problem for these kids. These college kids are struggling to keep up, and it's no secret that students with less money often experience way more stress. Trying to live day to day, wanting to have those fun young adult experiences, even just getting to school can be one of these massive problems that causes headaches, and it's hard for a lot of kids. And with government cuts to fundings for veterans, I'm sure colleges were no exception. I'm sure college students saw reductions in grants, leading to more loans, more debt, more stress on the people of Los Sueños. And this is a very real thing. We often see now a lot of people who go to college and university complain about the debt that they're put in and that they will never really ever be able to pay it off. And yeah, that's true. A lot of kids now get degrees that are so expensive to get, and I understand university is an experience that people want. They want those experiences. But I question whether the price of what it is really worth that tag. Here in the UK, specifically, there is a massive problem with overqualification. If you don't know what overqualification is a concept where too many college, university people get too many degrees and there's not enough jobs for them. This is the most seen in the computer science sector, the sector I was planning on going into, but decided against it because I saw a problem emerging with the amount of people going into computer science. I knew this was going to be a problem, and I'll be honest, I'm not the smartest. I am not the best at computer science. I don't think I would have been able to get into one of the biggest universities, and I didn't. So my degree would have been significantly less value than others who went to better universities. So I decided against it. And I will be honest, I think it was probably one of the better decisions I've made in my life. Plenty of the people I went to school with have finished university by now, and I'm sure they are tens of thousands in debt. And many of them will probably not use the degrees that they earned, and they will never climb out of the debt they have put themselves in. This is a problem that society faces now. Kids and people leaving school are getting increasingly more and more amounts of debt because of how expensive living is and how much student loans have to cover. I think if you're younger and you don't understand what actually it costs to go into university, university often doesn't just cover the cost of tuition, but often your housing, food, the general cost of travel to and from. It covers all these things over 3 years. They will stack up, and kids will rack up, or most courses, 30, 40, 50 grand. And if you go any more years, 5, 6, 7 year courses, some of them even 10 years in some medical fields, we're talking $300,000, $400,000 of debt just to get a degree. That doesn't guarantee placement. Degrees don't guarantee placement, and debt causes stress. People don't like being in debt. I don't like being in debt. I don't like using my credit card because I feel like I'm doing something wrong. Debt is something a lot of people are facing now, and it's something that almost everyone is in, and they will always be in. Most people will not be able to afford to pay their student loans off. Most of them will be forced to work jobs that they have no intention of working because there isn't the jobs out there for them. And that itself causes more stress. And this will result in more events like this happening, more people lashing out at society because they feel like they've been wronged in a way. They have been sold a dream that is entirely not obtainable. They have gone to university, they have done the hours, they've got the degrees, but they can't do anything with it. I know plenty of people who are a couple years older than me, friends, children of my mum's friends, my dad's friends, who got degrees, who, you know, they did all the right things, but they now work a minimum wage job, which nothing wrong with that. I work a minimum wage job that they didn't plan on ever touching. They didn't want to. And I think that's kind of the problem now, is kids aren't shown how bad the job market is now, how there just isn't the jobs to go around for everyone, and how everyone's almost fighting for everything. Not only with companies laying off hundreds of thousands of people, but there just isn't enough jobs even for minimum wage workers now, because jobs are cutting jobs. I have seen this in real time in my workplace, how people are worked to the bone, how minutes and hours are fucking looked at like fucking they're trading stocks in the day market, trying to make every penny they possibly can. And it leads to general life feeling so inhuman. And that's what life is like now. We are all just money in a spreadsheet for the government. We get loans that we have to pay back, and it leads to so much stress because money is the root cause of everyone's stress, seemingly, in a cost of living crisis now. But yeah, my advice here, really think stuff through before you go for it. That was a complete ramble. Now, if you S-rank the mission, you can find evidence of Archie Zem's social media where he talks about being done with it. The message is heavily redacted, but it reads like someone who has been pushed past their breaking point, someone who cracked and has finally lashed out at society because they didn't see any other way to go. Now, obviously, none of that justifies what they did. It's heinous and unforgivable, but these actions don't come from nowhere. They don't make sense, but there's always a reason someone ends up in this situation doing what they're doing. To me, it seems like these kids suffered financially, developed depression, and felt abandoned by the world and the government. Maybe they started failing their classes, they weren't getting the help they needed, they felt like they were worthless, like no one truly cared about them. So they lashed out to free themselves from the hell that they were in. Now, the name of the mission, Elephant, might remind you of the 2003 film of the same name, Elephant. 2003 is a damn good year. It's the year I was born. But the movie is heavily based on the Columbine shooting, probably the most infamous mass shooting, school shooting of all time. A quick rundown: 2 shooters entered Columbine High School, attempted to bomb it. They murdered 14 people, including 13 students and a teacher, and then killed themselves before the police could ever reach them. It's very obvious this mission pulls from that, from not only the name on its own, but even the attackers in Radionaut resemble the Columbine shooters' appearance, what they were wearing on that day. And fun fact, this is the only mission in the commander mode where your officers will take morale damage even if you S rank it, perfectly save everyone and don't do anything wrong. The devs clearly want it to be known that this is the worst situation that your team could ever be a part of. Now, something else in the mission that draws attention to me, and something I've talked about before, is antidepressants. Antidepressants aren't mentioned in this mission, and how they are overprescribed, and it's been debated for years, especially in the US, about whether they make people more aggressive. Antidepressants are a very powerful drug that genuinely save lives, and they do. I know that. They help people out of dark places, and I'm sure many of you out there use antidepressants and need them, and I'm sure many of you are in that situation. But antidepressants come with a long list of side effects. They do. One issue that has been observed and has a clear correlation, again, correlation does not equal causation, remember that, but there is a clear correlation when using antidepressants, especially in younger and younger children, there is an increase in aggression in them. Not necessarily because of the drug itself, but because sometimes when it's wearing off or, it's being adjusted, they need a higher dosage, they get more aggressive when it wears off. They get more agitated, they get more angry quickly because they don't have the antidepressant that sort of controls the emotions in their body. Now, these meds, antidepressants, are not cures. They are band-aids that need to be constantly reapplied over and over again, and that's a problem in itself. I understand people feel like they need them. There is ways to do the same thing that antidepressants do, but in a much better way. Obviously takes more money and time because it's called therapy, but antidepressants are a fast fix for basically every problem with mental health that the government love because it means that you have to employ someone to be a therapist. Now, the overuse and overprescription of antidepressants has led to many problems like over-reliance, the tolerance build-up, and eventually higher doses just stop being effective and people become basically addicted to them. Personally, I think they are overprescribed completely. They are handed out as a cheap fix, especially here in the UK. It's cheaper for the government here because, again, we have free healthcare, to give them this pill than to put them in therapy. That is it. That's where my opinion comes from because, again, here in the UK, we have the luxury of free healthcare, which I fully take advantage of. But because of that, here in the UK, we see a lot more of the negative side effects of antidepressants. I know people in my family that take them, and it changes them completely when they're off of them and on them. It's like they're two different people. I knew people in school that took them, and it was the same story, and sometimes you could tell when the drug had worn off because they spoke differently, they approached things differently. It's a very interesting drug that has a very interesting effect on people. And it's clear in modern days, with people getting angrier and more stressed out than ever, that mental health, despite everyone saying it's a very important matter, still isn't taken seriously enough. I myself have felt it. I remember being in a meeting with a doctor about my actual physical condition that is affecting me every day, and the topic of my mental health came up. And at the first sign of sadness, they were already suggesting that I should have medication antidepressants. I didn't take them up on it because I knew what they would do to me. I just stuffed my face with sour sweets instead. Yeah, I'm basically a child. But I think this level really brings that debate to the front. Is it the drugs causing this, or is it the lack of support? The lack of real help when people aren't mentally strong enough to handle something like this alone. Some people can tough it out, like myself. I know that I'm mentally stronger than most people. It's clear from the comments of people who have gone through very similar things as me, and they talk about how they had the complete opposite outlook on life after it. Trust me, it was rough for a couple of years. My unbreakable optimism wasn't created in a day. But others can't do what I did. They can't focus themselves and do what I'm doing now with this YouTube channel to help myself. They will lose themselves. They can't just break themselves out of that mindset that they might be in. And when even the systems that are in place that are built to help you get better make you feel even worse, it's easy to spiral. And what's the easiest way out of that kind of pain? Normally it's either suicide or lashing out at the world around you. You either run from it or you fight back. fight or flight. I know this is really rambly, but it's a really hard topic to actually talk about. It still feels very taboo especially for men talking about feelings in mental health, because they just aren't talked about enough, in my opinion, or taken seriously enough by a lot of people. There are people around me that won't talk about feelings, they won't talk about mental health, and they kind of just brush it off, saying that, it's fine, you get over it. Some people don't, and I think that's kind of a shame how our world is meant to be taking these things more seriously, but they're still not. And with how the world is going currently, with the economy, housing market, cost of living, it's going to get worse. People will get angrier, people will get sadder, and people will get even more scared, and that leads to more bad things happening. More people will turn to a life of crime. More people will turn to doing more drastic actions to try and make a difference. I predict, honestly, that the suicide rate will probably go up significantly in the next 10 to 15 years, especially within my generation age group. Just because of the amount of debt people are going to fall into, how they're not going to be able to afford housing, they're not going to be able to get the jobs that they want. So I predict that a lot of people will take their own lives. They will kill themselves. There will be people who rely more on substances just to get through the day. And I think that's a really scary thought that people aren't really thinking about. I think our generation will be remembered more as the forgotten generation than any generation before that, because we won't really be able to do anything. We won't be able to buy a house like our parents before us, or there won't really be any big, great event that we will be a part of. We will just kind of be the generation that was too poor to do anything, but not poor enough that we were suffering and dying like in the Great Depression. So yeah, this is a scary thought, and explains why things like depression are so widespread now, and why the amount of prescribed drugs for it is going up. Is because people are experiencing more stress and more problems today than they were 10, 15 years ago. So what can we actually do? We can't fix the economy or make rent cheaper, but we can do something small that still matters greatly. We can just be kind. A lot of people don't get that anymore. Some go days without anyone saying something nice to them, or even noticing that they exist. I've been there myself, and if you've ever felt like that, you know how much even a small bit of kindness can mean to someone. You never really know what someone's dealing with, so try to keep it simple. Be decent whenever you can. Show people that there is still something good out there, even if it's just a small moment, a quick laugh, a bit of warmth in a bad week. But that small kindness still counts. Lately, it feels like people really don't believe in each other anymore, and that there is no good in the world anymore. Hatred seems to always be the first thing people choose. Everyone's so quick to mock, to tear down, to be cruel, just for the fun of it. But you never know what tiny thing might push someone over the edge. So, my rule, just be kind. It costs nothing, and it might matter more and do more than you can ever realize. Let's move along to Grease Palms, which we have been brought out to stop some weapon smugglers from smuggling weapons into the country.
Listen up! There's a situation unfolding. 2 detectives from Criminal Investigations Unit arrived this morning at the Los Suenos Postal Service on 7th Avenue in East Los Suenos. Their goal was to have a conversation with a customs inspector named Jack Adams. From what we could tell, they became engaged in a firefight on Side 1, the reception area. Our information at this time is pretty spotty, but it seems like the shooter was a part of the Los Locos, who have been seen in the area previously. It's unsure at this time whether or not the gunfight was connected to what the detectives were investigating, or if it was a random coincidence, but we're certain that there's more than one shooter in the building. This has been corroborated by a phone call to 911 that we received around the same time as the gunfight occurred. Both detectives have left the scene. One is in critical condition, heading to Yano Memorial, so it's just going to be us going in there. Priority is to find the shooter and his buddies and collect Jack Adams, who is likely still within the structure. We've got to hustle, so I'll keep this quick. The postal facility is big. It has 3 sides for entry. We've got Side 1 with the reception entrance and warehouse entrance to the east. Side 2 with the loading bay access point, and Side 3 with more loading bays. These ones are for bigger trucks, so you may want to be mindful for the height difference there is if any shooters poke their fucking heads out. They might be able to see right over your cover. Your best bet is going to be that main entrance. It leads right into the center of the building, and we can get good domination that way. There's an internal structure within the facility on a second level as well. We don't have any intel on the design of this. It looks like a temporary part of the building. I've also had word from our contact at FISA that they want Adams alive and well. As far as we know, he's not a threat, And I can tell you now that if one of you kills a Fed on my watch, you'll be bagging and tagging evidence down in the lockers for the rest of your time with the LSPD. All right, last part. Rally is on 7th and Leybourne, right near where the freeway begins. We've got additional units blocking off the overpass, and a sniper team is en route. But they're across the city, and it's going to take some time. A tussle!
So Jack Adams, a gun smuggler, was to have a meeting with some officers, and a big shootout ensued. Now, in this mission, we also find an FISA agent, who is Jack Adams. Now, the FISA were looking into Jack, and they wanted him to be brought in alive, as he himself was an FISA agent. God, that is hard to say. This displays a level of corruption within the Bureau itself, and again, that reflects real life. A lot of these bureaus, agencies, have corrupt aspects to them. The FBI, the CIA, MI5, MI6, they all have corrupt people in them. There will always be people in government bodies that are corrupt, who will go under the table to make a profit, to line their pockets a bit more. They have the contacts, they have the know-how, they can do what they are doing, so it is up to others to make sure that they are held accountable for what they did. But this is the scary part, is are these agencies in place actually for our best interest? Is the FBI actually in place to protect the general population? Is the CIA there to protect national security? Is MI5 and MI6 there to protect the UK? Or are they there to push some sort of agenda and control others? Is it all about control or protection? And that is a clear question that Ready or Not wants to ask. This mission, called The Spider, in which we are taken to Brixley Talent Time Agency, a child talent agency. Yeah, we know where this is going. George Brixley is linked to the child porn ring and works with kids in a talent agency. Obviously, he tries to find kids who have talents and brings them up in the world, makes them actors, singers, whatever. He's a talent agent. But the odd thing is that Brixley has hired some general thugs as security to keep people out. And immediately when you enter this building, you'll notice that the entire place is a shithole, with the building very clearly being run down, and the building is filled with makeup rooms and rooms just filled with child clothing, like dresses, outfits, and costumes. And some messages that we can find on a computer really paint quite a frightening picture of what Mr. Brixley here might be involved with. He might be the fisherman who catches the fish to sell at market. He finds the kids, takes videos of them, showing their talents, takes photos of them, and then shops them around to anyone that bites. If anyone does bite, he signs the kids on a contract and then takes them away from their parents with the use of his hired muscle, selling the kids into a child trafficking ring. Now, from this mission though, the LSPD digital crime team found a lead pertaining to the person who is directly profiting from this ring itself, which leads us to the Valley of Dolls mission, with us now having to raid a very wealthy family who are currently celebrating their daughter's 18th birthday. Well, I'm sure the 12 gauge and flashbangs were on the menu at some point, but Amos Vol here is seemingly the head honcho, the man with the bread, and in his house he seems to also like making his own strange erotic movies. But we need to arrest him and seize his laptop. But you can also find some videotapes in the house which of course has child porn on it, and also some photos of minors in his basement in a very weird fashion. Definitely a strange guy.
Suspect isn't going anywhere. Evidence secure, making it safe. Alright, now I'm fucking pissed.
And in the basement, we can also find what seem to be filled in holes that are covering something up. This is commented on by one of our officers. That's the judge, our character who is very experienced in the police force, might know what these are. It's implied that children who didn't sell or he got bored of, killed, were put in here and covered in concrete, burying them and hiding them forever. It's crazy how a simple man like this, a father, a man who was just normal, a bit rich but normal, could hide all of this from his family. Again, this is tying into a theme of how simple, innocent people, your fathers, your mothers, your brothers, your sisters, your friends, can be some of the biggest monsters imaginable. That the scariest thing can literally be hidden from you in life. It's pulling up a reflection of what life is and how scary life can actually be with these people in it, as they know that what they're doing is wrong, but they hide it from those that they care about most because they know it's wrong. But anyway, from human trafficking to weapon trafficking, we move along to buy cheap, buy twice, in which we head to a used car dealership.
All right, gather up. We've got a rapidly evolving situation and we don't have time to lose. Detectives from the Auto Theft Task Force were conducting a routine warrant service at Caesar's Cars in North Hills. Something went wrong, and now we've got officers down and a shootout in progress. This dealership has been watched for some time, and the owners are likely using it as a launch pad for the packaging and sale of illegal weaponry. The original intel was that a big deal was going down tonight. With the cover blown, we need to get in and try and salvage as much evidence as we can. We've got no time to waste on this one. We've got 2 main entry and exit points on side 1 and side 3. I want a team on each. Things have already escalated, so we're going in hot. We need to get things under control so that the trailers can get the casualties out of there.
Do we have anybody on the inside?
None of the raid team made it inside. We don't know what happened, but the cover was blown before they gained access. However, 2 detectives are working undercover in the dealership. One we know is now deceased. The other is still alive, but it's only a matter of time if we don't get in there and take control. Okay, we're a few minutes out. Are there any questions?
No, sir.
That's what I like to hear. We're walking into a shitstorm, people. Keep those communication lines open. I want to know what's going on at all times. Now, get ready to move.
Well, there is an undercover cop in this mob, so we need to go in, neutralize the threat, and try to save the undercover cop, because apparently his cover has been blown. Spoiler alert, we enter, he is already dead, so we can't do that. But in this mission, we can find more about that trafficking operation, in which we find records of human trafficking. So this Russian mob is also tied to the human trafficking group of the white rich Americans that we just arrested. So if the Russian mob are involved, and also wealthy elites in America, how much deeper does this rabbit hole go? How big is this operation? We are starting to see the very tip of the iceberg that is the entire operation of this trafficking ring. On this map though, it gives us the location of where the trafficking takes place, where the people are brought in and sold off. It takes place at the Docklands. So now, this leads us into the final mission of Base Ready or Not Hide and Seek, in which it is a joint operation between the LSPD, FISA and the ATF on the shipping port, as they have found the location of where the human trafficking originates from. Now this mission is really good. It goes from this open dockyard area to offices to a warehouse, and it is just the most varied and interesting level in the game. Now within this mission though, we can find multiple frightening discoveries. On some containers we can find an image of a spider drawn on it. That name will obviously be recognizable to you, as we've heard it mentioned before in one of the missions called the Spider, and I believe the Spider is the name of the group doing this smuggling. And opening them we can find a range of things, from guns to narcotics, and including women who have been trafficked. And when we are about to get them to safety, the FISA have very different plans for them.
Copy that. Entry team. EFTs and trailers are... This is FISA. Stand down and shut that door, entry team. We're sending a unit to secure the container and its contents.
What? We're not leaving them like this.
Close the doors. Unless you want to interfere with a federal investigation, I suggest you shut the door and lock it behind you. Do your job and proceed with your mission. Understood?
Understood. Put the other guy back on. We'll talk later.
No, we won't be. FISA out. Entry team, you are clear to proceed with the mission.
Now this comment is interesting to a lot of people, of course, as this might tell us that the FISA are corrupt and a part of the trafficking ring. Now do I think this? Well, we're not told, but I don't think they are. So the FISA, or FBI, or CIA have a level of authority over the local police and can make a call that they deem necessary. And if I were to believe, they will use these women to finally get in, infiltrate and destroy the trafficking ring from the very top. They will track these women, and then once they're sold off and moved around, they will go in and raid wherever these women end up. So these women go from the tyrannical power of the traffickers to now the tyrannical power of the FISA. One power will do anything for money, the other will do anything to rid the world of corruption or evil or whoever they deem as bad people. These women will not get the help that they need. They will get used, and this ties into a very scary thing that happens in real life. The idea that maybe those who are meant to protect us from these things kind of just keep us in them if it means that they can finally crack the case, letting us continue to be exposed to the evil of this world, dirtying us so the rest of us can stay clean. It's a very real thing. Even police stations will let lower level thugs who have committed crimes go if it means that they can get a crack crack at the bigger fish. You catch the biggest fish in the pond, you win the biggest prize. A lot of cops and agencies are just chasing glory and want to be able to brag about themselves so that they can potentially get a promotion, which leads to them getting more power, bigger pay, which is just a really scary thought. That the people that are there to protect us are only doing what they are doing for the potential of a promotion, for more power, for more money. That's all it is at the end of the day. They seek out justice, not for the belief in that it needs to be upheld, but for glory. That's why they want to get the biggest fish. That's why they will let the little fish go if it means that they could potentially get an even bigger fish. And I think that's what this game is trying to say. In the trailers, they mention this theme of cops not being about having glory and being heroes, but some of them do. Some of them do want the glory. Some of them do want to be seen as heroes. Sometimes the ones that we call the good guys will do a bad thing because they believe it might lead to something perceived as better. It might take out the head cartel boss off the street or destroy a sex trafficking ring. But unfortunately, like everything, when one head of a snake comes off, another will of course come to replace it. Now further in the mission as well, we can find what is the auction room for these women, with us being able to hear them describing the girls like they are selling cattle, dehumanizing the women, treating her like a product, which that is what these girls are to these people that partake in purchasing people for sex. And it shows that there is a much higher level of corruption and evil in the world because people are bidding, meaning there is multiple high-profile buyers, and with the amount of women in the container tells us that there is people that are buying a lot of women for their own enjoyment. And this is still a very real human issue. Human trafficking is still a big thing and a big crime in the world. Slaves for work or sex are sold constantly. Girls and boys in countries every day go missing and are never found ever. Some of them are killed, some of them are kidnapped, and then some of them of course are sold into these rings and taken away from their homes, often to go to other countries who service very wealthy, very powerful people. Some of these people will never be found again. They will be discarded when they lose their luster, either being sold off again or worse, killed and disposed of, made to disappear. And this is a big problem that a lot of countries do face, even in first world countries like the UK, USA, any European country that is wealthy. People are kidnapped by gangs. They are then sold off to more wealthy people who then get them into trafficking rings, and they are never seen again. It is a very scary thought and is one of the scariest things that is still plaguing our society. And unfortunately, it is one of the hardest crimes to really get rid of, because rich people often can hide these things. They have the money to build the facilities to hide people away and kind of just use them whenever they want. And of course, with the auctioning taking place at a port, once this thing is exposed and taken down and locked down, another one will pop up. The other people involved with it will just set up another location and continue their operations there, which will explain why the FISA will let the women that we found continue to be sold off and trafficked by this group. And this is the big final mission of Ready or Not's main campaign. It's the final reveal that the companies and the government that we're working for is just as evil and also as corrupt as the people we are taking down. They are willing to be as dirty and disgusting as the ones engaging with these activities. They willingly let these women go and continue to be used and abused just because it means that they might be able to completely destroy it. They aren't protecting everyone. They're just trying to do the best they can, which, hey, sometimes that's all we can do. But after the main missions of Ready or Not, we now move into the two main DLCs for Ready or Not, starting with the Home Invasion DLC. So the story of the Home Invasion DLC starts with the mission Lawmaker, which has us being called out to a luxury mansion which has been attacked by armed suspects who are targeting a rich billionaire Anderson Lincoln and his family. And this mission is really good. It is a step above every mission we've played so far in just how the level is laid out and how it is presented to us. And it is probably my favorite mission from the two DLCs. The DLCs overall have some of the best missions in the entire game, just from the quality of each mission. Now, why was the billionaire being attacked? Well, the UPF, a group of eco-terrorists, have targeted him as Anderson was lobbying the government of California to make offshore oil pipelines, ignoring the very clear environmental damage that these pipelines would cause. followers. This was under the guise of revitalizing the Los Sueños area city, also known as lining his own pockets, because he is an oil tycoon. This is literally his profession. He wants oil to be sold and used more because it means he makes more money. But the person who targeted him was unknown. It seems that the group was called in and told to attack Anderson by someone else. It wasn't the UPF's initial target. And it explains why they have access to some high-grade military equipment in the mission. So this person either targeted Anderson entirely due to the environmental aspect, which, damn, them Stop Oil protesters really do have some competition now, or it was due to a rival corporation who doesn't want Anderson to have his hands in the Los Sueños pie, making money from it. This is never answered. We never figure out who actually ordered this attack and why it happened. I'm sure in a future DLC one day we will figure out why this happened, but at the moment it is still a mystery. There is a few more guesses, but none of them have concrete evidence. So let's move along to the next mission, Dorms, to see if that has any answers for us.
Alright, quiet down and listen up. Today we're doing something a little different. There's a property in Greenside, the old dormitory. It's been on our list for a while now to just move through and clear them out. The hurricane just bumped it up to the top of the list. We've had reports of increased activity in the area, mostly vagrants and addicts. We've had a call about gunshots coming from inside the building. An officer is reported being injured while attending a call. The full details are still coming through, but they were injured in some sort of altercation with a group in the building. They are safe, but we've been asked to lend a hand. I know this isn't our usual job, but this fucking hurricane really did a number on this city. We're all well aware the brass is working with skeleton crews, so we're going to have to pitch in and do things a little different to normal. The building was condemned before the hurricane hit. Now it's liable to collapse without warning, so the last thing we need is for a group of homeless to get too deeply rooted. I want to reiterate that I understand it's easy to lose focus on a job like this. But remember, we've already had one officer shot trying to sort this thing out. These folks are scared, and this building is their sanctuary. For most of them, it's the only thing they have in the world. It sucks, but everybody has lost something in this damn storm. They are no exception. We don't know what we're going to find in there. We know a number of these people are active drug users. We don't need any fuck-ups on this. Get in, clear it out, and get back here for a debriefing. This should be something short and sweet. Palate cleanser after everything we've been dealing with. But we all know things can go tits up in a heartbeat, so I want everybody focused. Any questions? Any issues? Anything that's been missed?
What's the relocation plan for any non-threats in the building? If we just push them away, they'll come back again. We've seen a number of pop-up shelters appearing since Antonio hit.
We've got people talking with some local official shelters. There are also a couple of programs to provide rooms for the homeless and some of the old run-down hotels in the city. This might sound cold, but the solution isn't for us to come up with. Our role is just to clear that building out as best we can without causing a large domestic incident. Now, I want equipment checks completed and everyone ready to load up in 20 minutes.
A bit different. Just clearing out some drugged up homeless people. Okay, nothing really going on, but we see that the general life of the people have gotten way worse since the end of the base game, because this DLC takes place a few months later. Because man, this place is indeed an utter shithole in every sense of the word. Anyway, let's move along to the next mission, Narcos. Agent Mike Esperanza's cover was blown and is currently being tortured by the Los Locos, the same gang that we've been facing the entire game basically. So we head into the neighborhood where the screaming was in order to find him, and this mission spans an entire neighborhood with multiple houses being used and you having to infiltrate and clear. This makes it a completely different kind of mission that you have to engage with, as each house feels like an entirely different beast that you have to tackle, scouting out, figuring out how you want to breach it, making the gameplay really fun and making it this sort of up and down in tension, because every time you approach a new building, you don't know what's on the other side. Is it just a normal family trying to live their lives, or gang members? You don't know until that door flings open. But story-wise, this mission seems really disconnected. Again, it does connect to the Los Locos from the base game, but I thought the DLCs would be setting up a new big mystery like the Spider was in the base game. This seems so disconnected.
The dealership is legit. They buy and sell cars, and they do it well. But the real business goes down at night. They're running weapons.
and just seems like they're making missions for the sake of making missions, which is a bit of a shame. And that is the entirety of the Home Invasion DLC. We have one basic setup with the first mission with the house, and that's it. The other two are just pretty disconnected. So let's move along to the Dark Waters DLC, with the first mission, Marriage at Sea, being quite a unique one.
Everybody, take a seat. Here's what we've got. We've had a call come through from a young woman trapped on a boat off the coast. She claims she's being held against her will, but was unable to give us many usable details. Her call to 911 was fraught, and it didn't end well. From what we can deduce from her call, she is on board a boat called the Cerralio. We have an active BOLO order for this vessel in connection with a serious sexual assault claim made a few days ago. However, before you start thinking of this being an easy night, the boat is owned by Fahad bin Khalid, a Qatari oligarch with a lot of influence globally. I don't think I need to repeat myself on that matter. The Cerralio is not your ordinary boat for weekend fishing with the boys. It's basically a floating mansion. It's high-tech, high security, and on the move. So when we get to it, they'll see us coming and have ample time to prepare themselves. We need to move fast on this. But here's the second caveat. We are led to believe that bin Khalid's son, Saeed, is behind all of this. He collected the boat from the manufacturers around a week ago and has been using it ever since to live out a debaucherous life fueled by drink, drugs, and whatever else he can find. We need to be careful with this one. I do not want that man harmed, no matter what he's done. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Good. Here's another kicker for us all. The first call came in around an hour before we received word from the boat. A witness saw a girl being carried onto the boat against her will. It was written off as partygoers having fun, but if the press get wind of it, you know exactly how they'll spin it. I know we're still getting used to this whole maritime mission concept, and the Coast is being briefed and will provide whatever cover they can. But this man is a dangerous felon with a complete disregard for his victims. I want him stopped and taken in quickly before this escalates further. But for the love of God, do not kill this motherfucker.
Fucking hell. So Saeed bin Khalid, a serial rapist and son of a wealthy Qatari oligarch, the best kind of people, has been chilling on his yacht. So we need to go raid it, of course, as the LSPD have recently been given jurisdiction over the waters around Los Sueños by the newly elected senator, the same guy who almost got assassinated in that one mission. Now our oil man's son here has taken people from Los Sueños who have caught his eye, mainly women. He took them on his boat and he kind of kidnapped them, not allowing them to get off, and he is a rapist, so he is doing what he wants to them. This could potentially tie into the idea that he is trying to traffic people as well to his other wealthy oil money friends, so there is a potential that this was one of the people who bought women from the Spider group all the way back in that raid that we had, and he is now just doing it himself because he lost his ability to buy people. But the people on the boat are Los Sueños residents, and this makes the mission really unique because you have completely different people on the boat and they all behave in different ways. You have obviously the rich man's bodyguards who are really aggressive, always willing to stand on business. You have the oil man himself who is a bit jumpy. He will pull a gun if you let him, but he is easier to take down. And of course you have the random civilians who come from all over the place because he has just taken people from wherever because they caught his eye. So maybe this DLC itself is going to tie back into the drug and human trafficking ring that we took down in the base game. So what's the next mission about? We go back to the United Planet Front, the UPF, and their mission of saving the planet, with the mission the Leviathan. So the group has infiltrated an offshore oil drilling platform after the group was basically destroyed in the previous mission because we killed almost all of their high-ranking members. But after they went back to doing the fun thing on college campuses like debates and protests, they realized that they weren't going to do anything and nothing was going to change with these actions. So now they have committed an act of domestic terrorism with one of the members of the UPF attempting to assassinate the now governor of California, Andrew Whitfield, the guy that was attempted to be assassinated a few months earlier. This guy is living quite the life during a speech he gave outside the LSPD, which we can actually see in a lot of the promotional material. So this assassination attempt put the UPF back on the LSPD's radar, and it allowed them to figure out that they are going for the oil drill. So now we go out there after a live stream popped up online of them executing innocent workers on the platform. Jesus Christ, they've gotten extreme. So we head in, neutralize the threat, save the civilians, and terminate the UPF live stream and turn off the alarm as well, potentially completely completely ridding the world of the UPF and the protesters of what they are trying to do. This, of course, is people that are trying to make a difference, but doing it the complete wrong way, which I think reflects very much in reality. A lot of the Stop Oil protesters, and to be honest, a lot of other protesters, go around doing it in the wrong way completely, and they don't get the message across. Just Stop Oil makes the lives miserable for most ordinary people, meaning that they're not actually affecting the world the way that they want. They will stop lorries filled with vegetable oil, not the kind of oil they want to stop. They will go into a museum and throw cans of soup over an oil painting. Again, the wrong kind of oil, and being completely disrespectful to entire culture and entire history of our own civilization, which completely makes their message null and void because most people just will not agree with these people and what they are doing. And even other protests in the past have completely done the wrong thing, from people protesting against the government who then go and destroy local businesses and loot local businesses, damaging the local economy and their own common folk that they live amongst, not the people they are trying to actually get the message across to. But let's move along to the third and final mission, 3-letter triad. After our character Judge received an anonymous tip from a contact at the USIA that the South American pirate group, the Los Bavagantes del Caos, I don't know if I said that right, and a mercenary group called the Black Sentinels, who are a reflection of a real-life mercenary group, will be trading something at the abandoned Elysian Hotel. And this deal must be stopped quickly and quietly, preferably without the feds getting involved. This is all very mysterious and not very helpful for our job, as this contact doesn't want to go into the details, but it is a matter of national security. He does let us know that. And it needs to remain on the low, and the contact himself needs to remain anonymous. But our character Judge does seem to know him, indicating some sort of past between the two. So now we head out to the hotel, and again, this mission is great. I love its setting. It's something you never really see in games. An abandoned seaside hotel resort in which pirates are taken over, and it's amazing. An actual class in level design, and to me, it just further builds the world up, showing how entire industries and businesses are going under and being abandoned completely in an area that is so high in tourism. A hotel should do very well in California because California is one of those areas that is high in tourist numbers. But here, it's obviously not doing well, telling us that people aren't going on holiday as much because they probably can't afford to. Or it's the crime thing. Maybe they don't want to get involved with the crime. But inside the hotel, we find two things of very high importance. A kidnapped USIA scientist named Dr. Anthony Schwartz, and a very large vial of something, a chemical weapon which is of utmost importance to the USIA that needs to be kept under wraps. So what is more important, the doctor or the weapon? I'd imagine it's the fucking chemical weapon that they have. I'm sure that's more important. Now, the Black Sentinels themselves were going to trade the chemical weapon for the good doctor. So you might ask, what is more important, the doctor who potentially creates the weapon or the weapon itself? Well, I think it's kind of both, honestly. I think the doctor probably would have been taken by the Black Sentinels and probably the USIA infiltrated and kidnapped him back, but I think the weapon that they wanted to keep under wraps as much as possible because they knew if it got out and used, it would be extremely deadly. Now, the Black Sentinels were going to use the chemical weapon to get the scientist back, which could indicate that the scientist creates the weapon and potentially is extremely important, or this entire plan was set up by the USIA using the Black Sentinels to get the doctor back, and with forensics, it kind of ties into that idea with the chemical weapon revealed to be a dud, which could either mean that the Black Sentinels either made a fake or were given a fake to get the doctor back. But this doesn't work because a recording you can get from a Black Sentinel tells us that they were determined to leave with both the weapon and the doctor. So why would they want to leave with the weapon if it was fake? Because it wouldn't matter because it doesn't work. Well, I think it's because the Black Sentinels did have access to the weapon and they wanted the doctor to make even more of the weapon, so they were going to betray the pirates and then just take the doctor anyway. So how is it a fake in our possession? Either the Black Sentinels didn't know it was a fake, or the USIA broke into the LSPD evidence room, swapped it and took it away, securing it entirely alongside their doctor, getting the result that they wanted in the end. I personally believe that they somehow set up this deal between the Black Sentinels and the pirates because they knew that they had both of them, so they kind of manipulated them into making this deal even though they probably didn't want to. This just displays the power and level of influence the USIA has over the entire world. They are able to control not only the LSPD LSPD, but these pirates and the Black Sentinels. Three very distinct different groups, all originating from different areas with different levels of authority amongst them, and they are still able to control them and get exactly what they want out of them. Now, completing all the DLCs, I think it's clear that they're not really fully complete yet. There is very clearly a story here being set up, and I think that is painfully obvious. Ready or Not is still being updated and is still being added to, and will probably continue to be added to for the years to come, potentially even maybe resulting in a big expansion, version 2 sort of thing, or a sequel. I don't really know because I'm not really following the game's development. I do know there is an update relatively soon from when this video is being made, but to me it's clear there is something else in the oven for this game's story. So what do I think it is? Well, I think it's clear that the game wants to dive much further into the Spider group, potentially, or another group who are dealing with much more dangerous aspects of what are in these DLCs. You have the oligarch who is trying to kidnap people, you have the Black Sentinels who have access to a chemical weapon, and of course you have the FISA who have an extreme amount of control over the LSPD. And I think that is clearly what the future DLCs will probably dive into. The corruption within these government bodies, the LSPD, the FISA, so on and so forth, but also the sort of horror behind how these groups, like the Black Sentinels, these pirates, they strike all these deals behind our back and we will never find out about them. I think it'll be very obvious and very clear in the future that the Spider group will have some sort of connection to all these other groups, probably eventually resulting in the big reveal that the LSPD themselves are also involved in some way or some form with that initial reveal of the Spider trafficking operation. But I think it's going to set up a FISA sort of against the LSPD, and it's going to raise the question of how these governing bodies police each other. The FISA are meant to be over the LSPD, but if the LSPD can see that they're doing something wrong, should they be able to take them in and arrest them? And I think that is something that is going to be looked at and asked about what happens when these two governing bodies that are meant to control and maintain order go against each other. And I think that's a really interesting story that could obviously dive into a hell of a lot of themes, and this world is one of the most interesting that I've ever seen, and I really do hope that Void Interactive do continue in the future and make something really interesting and expand what Ready or Not has already done. But let's wrap it up now. What is Ready or Not actually trying to say to me? Now, after finally finishing Ready or Not and really sitting down and analysing all the missions and what they mean and the themes that they dive into, I think I finally understand what Ready or Not is really trying to show us. It's not a game about tactics or heroism or the life of a normal police officer. It's a look at what happens when you pull back the curtain and see how ugly the world truly is. The police force in Ready or Not are, let's say for lack of a better word, overworked like hell. Many of these types of things most police officers will never see. At most, they might have one or two of these events happen in their career. Most police officers do not do this day to day like we do in this game, but that's the point. It's trying to show you the whole picture. Every mission itself chips away at that illusion that we ourselves are safe, that the world around us makes sense and is completely fine. It starts with small-time criminals, things that you yourself might have seen in person. Simple arrests, stick-up jobs, hit and runs, police chases, things that you can see day to day and you don't really think much about it. But the deeper you go, the more you realize that none of this is simple. Crime is a lot more widespread and deeper than a lot of people really give it any thought of. Neon Tomb and Elephant are missions that hit harder than anything else in this game. Walking through the aftermath of a mass shooting, you're not just looking at the violence, you're looking at the result of a society that stopped taking care and protecting its people, allowing this sort of attack to happen. You see the anger, the pain, the loneliness that builds up until it explodes out. It's not horrifying in a way that is normal. It's horrifying terrifying because it's not exaggerated. These events feel so real because they are one of the most realistic depictions of these events. Neon 2 had so much criticism because of how closely it based itself on the real-life Pulse shootings, and of course Elephant with the Columbine shooting. These are real events that happen to real people in our world. This isn't fiction, it's reality. And it's scary because it feels like it's something that could happen tomorrow. We could wake up and there could be another mass shooting, a mass stabbing on the train here in the UK, or so many other crimes that could happen could just happen. Then you get missions like Hide and Seek and Valley of Dolls, and the horror shifts from that public, violence and just loss of safety to that more private horror. You go from blood-soaked clubs to quiet homes, hiding monsters behind locked doors and in people's basements. The trafficking ring and the father in the basement hiding his true love. It's not the violence that these missions show off that get you, it's the realization that these people lived normal lives, surrounded by neighbors, friends, families, and none of them ever saw this side of them. They never saw what they really were. And that is a kind of horror that really sticks with you. The thought that the ones that are around you, you might not truly know them. And that is what Ready or Not is really about. It's not pointing fingers or giving answers for why these things happen. It's showing how close all of this sits to reality. The city of Los Sueños starts to feel less like a setting and more like a reflection of a world just outside our windows, tired, decaying, and filled with people pretending like things are getting better. Because the truth is way scarier to face. The police force and public services are burnt out. Criminals are getting more and more desperate, and everyone else is just trying to hold their lives together and make something of themselves in whatever way they can. Ready or Not, you go in thinking you're there to bring order, but after a while it doesn't feel like that. After a while it feels like you're just another part of the cycle. The next person trying to clean up something that can't be cleaned this way. Every mission ends, but nothing ever really feels fixed. Nothing truly gets resolved. Evil itself doesn't disappear. It just hides somewhere else and a new evil emerges. And maybe that's the point. Maybe Ready or Not isn't about saving the world, but about looking at it honestly, seeing the horror for what it actually is, and still choosing to keep going and try to make a difference. Because that's all anyone can do. Open the next door, take another step, and try do something good in the world, even if it doesn't feel like it cleans the world entirely. That's the real horror Ready or Not reflects. Not the monsters or the jump scares, but the truth. That the worst things people do don't happen in the dark. They happen right next to us, hidden behind smiles, in homes, in corporations, and in governments. Ones that mirror our very own. The real horror of Ready or Not isn't in the game at all. It's in the world that it mirrors back to us. Hello lads and lasses, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, comment, all of it, and sorry this video took me so goddamn long to actually make. I don't know why this video took me so long to make, I honestly could not tell you. Probably had to do with the fact that I played through the entire game, didn't record it, and had to replay through the entire game again and actually record it. So that's probably why. Alright, before we talk about future stuff, quick member shoutouts, let's get them out of the way. Thank you to all channel members, including Chelsea and Tyler, Marty Morris, Game Scavenger, Rat, Artman XP, Darren76, It's Bird, Carter Phillips, Corrego, Zaralino, Kento, Erman the Turk, Ashley, C. Good, Julian Sisinski, Not Saber, Jane Caliber, Jamie Barrett, Juniper LP, Lolink12, Dam Larat, Zartane, Final Fantasy XIV, Straight Gin, and Synapse. Thank you for all your support, it is greatly appreciated. Now, future stuff. So, I want to start working towards my next bigger video. A lot of videos I've been making have kind of just been me making videos, for me wanting to make videos on sort of smaller games, but my brain wants to make a much bigger video, more complicated video, and with that comes my desire to expand the videos themselves. So my plan hopefully is, after RE9 releases and when I do the video for that, I want to do a big Darkwood video, fully voice acted, you know, whole 9 yards. I want it all done. Now, of course, the reason I'm saying this now is because I want to kind of force myself to actually get on the horse and make it. So, of course, with that, I want all of you in the community to, you know, put your hat in the ring to call yourself out for a character. Of course, I probably will not be able to actually afford to pay, you know, a fair pay to everyone, but if you want to have some fun, voice a character like many people did for the Black Souls videos, feel free. And this one actually has more male roles, so many of you who reached out who are men who, you know, unfortunately I just can't give a small girl character to because it would just feel so stupid to me. There's plenty of characters in Darkwood that are male. Of course, there's females as well, so don't worry about that if you are one of the lucky lasses in my community. But in the meantime, before that, what do I plan on doing? Well, to build up to that video, I would like to be able to actually, I guess, work with more people in the videos. My main desire at the moment is for thumbnail artist, because man, I'm still bad at them and I don't think I'll ever get good at them. And of course, a editor. This is going to be for me a big commitment, especially the editor part, because I have no clue how much this is going to cost me. But I think I've hit a wall now with my style of editing and how I've taught myself. I don't think I'm going to be able to get better in a fast enough amount of time and keep pumping out videos. For me to get better at editing, I would basically need to stop making the videos, which I don't really want to do because I like making the videos and scripting and voicing it all. That's the part I like. The editing is not really the part I enjoy doing as much. Of course, I'm not saying I'm going to give the entire video over to someone else and have them edit the whole thing, so don't worry if you're somewhat interested in editing and want to dip your toes in it. My idea is I want specific sections edited at a higher quality. So, for example, I would like certain dialogue sequences to be more edited, more dynamic in the video. One of my biggest problems with the Black Souls 2 video, despite me loving the video, visually it is quite a boring video, I personally think. So I would love to be able to elevate the videos a lot more, and I think Darkwood, with the amount of assets the game has, I think if you are great at editing and love doing it, you can have a field day with that. Of course, for thumbnail artists, I don't really know what I'm looking for. Style I'm thinking of course, is something like Wendigoon's style, or Pyro's style, or like my friend Not Saber's style. Something akin to that, but not exactly. I wanted to have my own sort of flavor to it. So if you're a thumbnail artist, if you've done it in the past, and you're interested, show me your stuff, and I might commission you for what will probably be not the next video, but the video after, or the third video, depending, a Dead Rising video. For Christmas, I want to do somewhat of a special video, so I want to do the first Dead Rising, because that's an incredibly important video for me, and well, and game for me personally. So that's my plan for December, and like a big Christmas video that I'll sort of finish the year off with. But the 2 games before that, or 1 game before that, the next video is going to be RE8. I'm going to get RE8 done before RE9 comes out next year, so I'm ready and caught up again. And also, if any of you haven't played RE games, you can kind of be caught up with RE7 and 8, which is probably the 2 you're going to need to know about, because while I definitely think it's going to be connected to RE2, I think the story stuff is going to be more connected to RE7 and 8. But the other game, if I have time in between that, which honestly I don't think I will be completely honest, work is kicking my ass, and coming up to Christmas is going to be kicking my ass even more, I expect. I'm not sure, I haven't decided. Maybe something super short, like a sort of 10-minute sort of indie game, maybe something like Milk Inside a Bag of Milk, or whatever, something really, really short that I can obviously have someone, that could be a good video actually to have someone edit for as well, and obviously a voice actress as well for that. But that's my plan. Plans always go out the window really quickly, but of course, if you are interested in thumbnail design and editing, you can either reach out to my work email, which is crewcroc@gmail.com. There's a lot of scam emails in that, but don't worry, I do check it thoroughly and make sure anything I do find, or on Discord. I've seen many of your guys' lovely messages on Discord. It's very appreciated, and I know I haven't been very active on that. It's just I haven't really had the time to do that, and I still want to do like my Counter-Strike video, but that's just a different beast entirely for me, that video, because that's like me having to go back like 10 years and talk about memories from that long ago, because I'm talking about my entire story with Counter-Strike, so that script's going to take a pretty long time to actually script out and try to figure out and work out all the kinks to make it actually a decently paced video. But yes, that is it. Again, sorry this video took me so fucking long to make. I really need to, you know, get back in gear. But again, thank you everyone for the support. It's been greatly appreciated. And that is entirely enough waffling from me. See you around. Crocodile.